All right. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Night's Light Astrology. And today we're going to go over a pretty insane full moon that I was looking at. I looked at it maybe a week ago. I was looking ahead at it because I do have Aquarius placements. It's happening in the sign of Aquarius. And I'm like, well, let's kind of see what we're in for. But then I saw a lot of other stuff going on in the chart. With this full moon, we have it conjunct the sun, that is, conjunct Jupiter in Leo, and then the full moon itself is in Aquarius conjunct Pluto, so we've got that going on. Um, and then we have Saturn right now stationing to go retrograde, so that's so kind of a going over of all of the Saturnian things, the things dealing with responsibilities, career, reputation, public image, all of these things, all of these very Saturnian things, the structures within our lives, the things that we built up over this year, really going back over them and seeing if there's anything to double back on, seeing what's worked, what hasn't worked, all that kind of stuff. We've got that going on. We also have Mercury that just stationed direct, and so now it's going to be moving forward again. We still have about a week and a half of the shadow period for that. So we're not quite out of the woods when it comes to all of this Mercury retrograde and Cancer stuff going on. But I think it's really fitting too with the full moon that's being in Aquarius, the water bearer. And it's about full moon, about these releases that are going on, about a climax of things. And with it being that water bearer, water symbolizing the emotion, and then having all of these things that are going on with the mind and with emotion and with this kind of integration and this play between the mental and the emotional that was happening during the Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Now we can kind of see what needs to be let go of while we're still in that shadow period of Mercury going forward, going direct, and really clearing the end zone on that, just clearing all of that out, getting through it, because now we have these amazing placements that have come in. I'm particularly thinking of Jupiter in Leo, especially conjunct the sun, and it's getting us ready for what we're going to do throughout the rest of the summer, going into the fall. And really, when you're looking at that Jupiter in Leo, right when it came into Leo, it was combust already. And when you got these planets that are combust, that just means it's within close degrees, 3 degrees of the sun. When you have planets that are combust, they're going through the fires. It's very scorpionic in that type of sense of this rebirth, this transformation. So now that we've had this last year of Jupiter in Cancer and what that's really dealt with things of the home, now just having that Mercury retrograde as well, that was going on in Cancer too, so doubling back on a lot of that stuff. Now all of a sudden we're going into this new phase of Jupiter for the next year, and it is really about burning away all these Jupiterian things that we've been dealing with, and then allowing new things to come in through Jupiter. And Jupiter is going to be dealing with, of course, the first word people use is abundance, but luck, growth, expansion. There's a learning aspect to Jupiter. There's knowledge. There's a lot of these things that are in Jupiter. And in the sign of Leo, it's going to deal with the thing that's been coming through with me is where can I be more courageous? That's the thing where can I be more courageous and allow that to create expansion and abundance in my life and great things to come in my way, luck, all of that. That's just one aspect of it, though. It's also going to deal with your passion, your creativity. It's going to deal with love. It's going to deal even with children, too. You can have stuff going on with children. And especially, I would say, when you're looking back at your childhood with all this stuff we've had going on in Cancer. Cancer is very nostalgic, reminiscent of things. So this Mercury retrograde in Cancer, you might have been just having these memories come up about how do I really reconnect with this version of myself from when I was a child? How do I reconnect with this? Or these are the things that worked for me as a child, or what didn't work for me, or even just being younger in your youth, that kind of thing. All of that. And now that stuff has been reflected upon, you can bring that into being here in the next year. So great initiatory placements that we're having right now. And then on the other end, on the opposite side of the zodiac wheel, of course, this is what a full moon is. This is when the moon is opposing the sun. We've got that moon and Pluto conjunct in Aquarius. And so this is really digging deep into focusing on the self, really focusing on the self. And there's been this theme, and you've been feeling this come up in your life. And it's really been in this more of the echoes of it, or in a smaller way, but it's going to be much more amplified now with this particular placement that we're having in general. But this is going to be, we're going to be feeling this for quite some time, okay? Even though it is just the full moon, this is just where you get into that. This is where you reach the climax of that and start to go on that path and that journey. But with the moon and Pluto being conjunct there, of course, the moon is going to be dealing with the emotions. It's going to be dealing with all these Cancerian themes that I talked about. And then conjunct Pluto, there's this rebirthing that comes about it. So it's just such an incredible full moon that we're looking at here, because it is all dealing with something very specific in everyone's life. And we're going to go into all the zodiac signs so you can see where this is at, where this is falling at in your chart. But we're looking at this transformation around the emotional body that's happening. And what is this creating in my life? What has been creating in my life that has made me not courageous, made me not realize the amazing person that I am, the amazing sense of self that I have, and the things that I can do, and not being courageous enough in these things. I keep using that word courageous because that's the word that really came through for me when I was looking at the chart. But we've got all of that going on over there too. This is in the sign of Aquarius, which rules the collective. So it is around kind of focusing more on the self instead of the people around you. That really is. And especially with Pluto and Aquarius, with the placements that we've had, and this Aquarius initiation we even kind of went to, this like Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces initiation that was towards the end of last year going into the beginning of this year. All the planetary the whole planetary lineup we had in those signs. Now there is this I'll use the term again, doubling back on that and seeing here, how much have I grown since, especially I would say since about like January into like February, that time period. And then a lot of us had made, because of that major conjunction that came, that was around February in there. It was, I think it was February 14th or something like that. But we had that major Neptune Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, right on the world axis. So a major reset in a lot of people's lives. I'm thinking even about, I was talking with this guy who was an apprentice who was working on my bathroom, which is still being worked on, of course. But 2 bathrooms in my room, actually. But I was talking to this apprentice dude, and he's like, yeah, I just became an apprentice. And he was an older guy too, and he was maybe feeling a little weird about being older and becoming an apprentice. But he was talking about how he just started his apprenticeship, and now he feels so great that he's done all these things since, and he didn't even specify when it was, but I was like, oh, this was about, that like February into March time frame that you became an apprentice, huh? And he's like, oh yeah, how'd you know? And I told him I'm an astrologer and all that. But you can really see, and this of course is happening in my clients' lives too, but you can really see that a lot of people made a huge pivot back in this time. And so of course Saturn being in the mix of that placement that created that pivot, going back here with this Saturn retrograde and kind of refining a lot of these career moves that we've made, a lot of these new structures we built in our lives. And all of this is really going to be connected to what this full moon is all about. And it is about focusing more on the self and being more courageous within how you can build your identity and yourself. And because Saturn is in the mix of these things too, with it, this is now, as I'm recording this, it will already be retrograde and have only a few days into it when that full moon fully comes and it's exact. But with Saturn being in the mix here, and then Leo, because Leo is about that, it's the sun, and it's radiating. There is a part of the public image that comes in with just being the sun. Of course, it's not necessarily the rulership of it, but it's center stage. Leo center stage is about the showmanship and just being theatrical, being dramatic even, but that is really that vibe of Leo and the sun. And so having that combined with the stuff that's going on in your career, I think will make for some really interesting placements and moves that people can make over this summer that are really going to pay off for the years to come. And now is the time to be making those moves, especially. I'm trying to think of anything else that we've got going on yet. Of course, we still have Chiron. That's at 0 degrees Taurus. So there is this sneak peek we're getting right now about a wound that's coming up from the past, but then also now, and how it's connected, dealing with the resources, dealing with self-worth. And so this Sun and Jupiter and Leo, it really plays off of that well, and it's putting a, I'll use the word again, spotlight on those issues, and then what you can do within your career to help with the money issues that may be coming up, or with a new way of looking at money or self-worth and how you can show up differently in those places. Okay. And also just creating those structures in your life and all that stuff too. So all that going on, and then we'll get into the specific dignities and everything like that. But I mean, the sun is really doing some work right now. Of course, it is in its domicile right now, so that's a big reason for it. But even with all the other things going on, it's pretty incredible how much power the sun has right now. So we'll dive into the chart here, and we'll go through a couple other things and specific placements of what's going on here with this full moon. And yeah, there's just really, I covered maybe a fraction, a third of all the incredible stuff we're seeing with this full moon here. And it can feel a little bit tougher too, because it is going to require courage, but it's just such a great one. I think we've been talking about astrology that's kind of on the, I guess, the more rough end of it, a little more, I don't know if I'd say doom and gloom, but it's been some tough astrology that we've been dealing with over this last month. And so now we're really in a great place to move forward with that. And even as things in the world are going to start to pop off, we're still holding this charge from that Mars-Uranus conjunction, from all these planets that we have at 4 degrees, all these outer planets, and then including Jupiter, which has now just moved to 5 degrees, but it was at 4 degrees as well, what people were calling the Barbeau basket. I won't get into my qualms on that with the Barbeau basket, because Barbeau himself didn't even make that. It's more of an internet term, but there is something to be said about those placements. And another thing that I'll add too, I just remembered in 2 days here, it's like 2 or 3 days, I think it's like late on the 26th, we've got the nodes that are switching place. So the nodes, the north node and the south node, the kind of direction we're heading towards, and then the things that we're letting go of and releasing. This is where the eclipses happen too. It's always on an axis. And we've had the nodes for the last year and a half in Pisces and Virgo. And so in 2 more days, we're moving to the next cycle of that. It's going to be going into the end of Aquarius, the end of Leo here, okay? Because the nodes move backwards, so they'll be moving into the critical degree first. That's why you see these trigger points right when the nodes switch place. That can bring on some really intense stuff. And then, so that even adds into it with this full moon that we're having, because it is on that axis of Leo in Aquarius. Just with a full moon and releasing, and then we're going to begin having the eclipses in those signs as well. This next eclipse is going to be on the 12th of August here, and that eclipse, that's going to be in Leo. And then I think we have another Pisces eclipse, because the nodes will have just moved in, so we'll pop back over to Pisces, and then it will be Aquarius eclipses and Leo eclipses that we'll be dealing with. So then that will be for the next year and a half when we hit every eclipse season. So that's going on. That's pretty incredible. And then that really speaks to this releasing around the, not so much the authority figures. That's a part of it, especially with Saturn going retrograde on the world stage we're talking here. But also kind of realizing that we hold the power, like the power that we had in ourselves, the things that maybe we were comfortable with and forgot about. That confidence we could have in ourselves. Because with that south node, people will always say it's the energy we're moving away from, but I would also say it's the energy that we learn how to be comfortable in. So it's about finding this new authority within oneself, a new level of courage, being able to be in front of people, being able to actually have some attention thrown onto you and not feel guilty about it, all of these things. And that's what I really love about the Leo energy, is it's so unapologetic about being the center of attention. And I think some of us need more of that in our lives, so we're going to take on some of that energy. But we'll get into the presentation here, and then we're going to go over a bit of just general for what all these placement means. We've got a tarot reading that I also did that's in this, and then we'll get into each zodiac sign for that. So thank you for tuning in here, and let's get started. All right, so full moon in Aquarius, okay? Pluto's reveal, what the last 3 weeks were building to. And then, it was, I chose that title too for this, Oh, hey, Sharon. Good to see you. Really good to see you. I hope you're having a good one here. I hope you're staying cool this summer. Jeez. It's been a hot one, especially here in Vegas. I think it was like 110 today. What does it even say it's at right now? Yeah, it was like 110 because it's like 107 right now. But yeah, so with this, and that's the whole thing with Pluto too, is like, what is it going to be reveal to? Because there is the sun is kind of more the revealer, but you've got its full light on the moon right now, and it's coming in, and then the moon is going to be dealing with the subconscious. So what's like from the subconscious is going to come to the surface. That's going to be revealed. It's going to be transformative. It's going to be something that was hidden, when you're dealing with these aspects to Pluto. There can even be, for some of you, themes around death, which it's always a tough thing to talk about. This is why it also rules the taboo, because it is always tough to talk about that. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. But these are things that can be really revealed. And then, of course, Aquarius is dealing with the collective. So of the Pluto placement that we have here, I mean, it's almost 20 years that it's going to be in Aquarius. So it's not so much of this focus of always having something in the collective, but when you get these major aspects to it, that's really what it's dealing with, unearthing, and especially more so on the world stage, because these are collective planets. This is how I practice with the outer planets. Like, there's a little bit of a grain of salt, you can use it in your personal chart, but it's more about with what's going on in the collective, and then you can really overlay what's going on in the collective to what's going on in your life. And this is like a big reason why astrology works so well and is so accurate. But we just want to remember that Pluto is in Aquarius for 20 years. So we don't want to treat it like one of these faster moving planets. There's a different vibe that we're giving to it. But yeah, this full moon. Now, I didn't even say with the full moon, guys. This is going to be on this coming Wednesday here, okay? This is July 29th. And it's going to be at 6 degrees and 30 minutes, okay? And then this is also going to be at 7:35 a.m. This is Pacific time, 7:35 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, so that's going to be 5:35 if you're Central time. And then I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. That's going to be, excuse me, 9:35 if you're Central time. And then that will be 10:35 if you're Eastern time. Okay. And, but yeah, so with this full moon, it's just a really, I keep on saying it's really interesting. I hate to repeat myself, but I was just looking at all these placements, and I think we'll really get into the flow of what a lot of this means when we get into the sign by sign. That's why I usually have a lot of stuff that comes through, a lot of like channeling that I'll do, but we'll continue ahead with the presentation here. Oh, there we go. So yeah, this is the thing I kind of mentioned here, is there's already a standing charge that's going on. So if you've been watching any of my previous streams here, we really started to hone in on this energy that we're dealing with, and what I was calling the Trinity trigger, which was the Mars-Uranus conjunction. And we always see something pretty insane during or around the Mars-Uranus conjunctions that we have, especially when you have the first one in that new sign. So Mars and Uranus right now, they are in Gemini, okay? Uranus is going to be in Gemini for the next like about 7 years. I've had it in there for a while, a few months now, so excuse me. But Uranus is in Gemini, and then we had Mars coming to Gemini. They made that conjunction. That was that 4th of July conjunction. I called it the Trinity trigger, because this is really where we get this energy now that we're working with that is going to trigger something. And with these outer planets all being in these new signs here, all lining up now, this is where we can see the moon could trigger something too. But we're watching all these major placements and how they aspect. And we will bring up a couple midpoints that make me wonder, okay, what's going to be the trigger around this? Because we're still holding that charge. It was like pretty much nothing happened with that Mars-Uranus when it was in that conjunction. So the way that I view this and the way I practice astrology is there is still this background charge being held that's waiting to get released. And a full moon is about releasing. So we may see it come through here. And then this even doubles back to a lot of those predictions that I gave. And I feel like we're going to see one or two or more of those predictions really come to fruition, or the beginning stages of some of those things. But let's go ahead and read this here. The standing charge: the sky has been loaded for weeks, as I was just saying here. And then slow cycles do not produce events on their own. They build potential and hold it. A faster body has to cross the structure and release it, or even just an aspect to it. But I usually see it more with the conjunctions that we have. And we're dealing with these pretty heavy conjunctions right now of these faster moving planets. So 4 outer planets have been locked near 4 degrees all month, and they still are. That's Neptune sextile Pluto, Uranus sextile Neptune, Uranus trine Pluto, Jupiter sextile Uranus, Jupiter trine Neptune, Jupiter opposite Pluto. And that's what's creating what people are calling the Barbeau basket. Okay? But Jupiter opposite Pluto is the handle. This is the handle on that Barbeau basket people are talking about, or the handles, whichever way you're like looking at the basket, really. And then so that is already there, and then you're having like the sun and moon land on these at the same time, okay, while Jupiter is also being reborn from all this, okay, through its transit through the sun that's happening right now. So there's the scorpionic vibe already on that end of it, with it being combust, and then on the other end of it you just have Pluto in the mix, which is about that rebirth, reincarnation, all that kind of stuff, going through the fires and being reborn, all of that. So just such an incredible placement. And then when we get to the tarot cards too, the way that it plays off of it is also pretty wild. The wave, how a cycle actually moves. And so this is stuff that comes from Dane Rudhyar. Okay, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. And this is how he talks about the lunation cycle. So we had the new moon in Cancer that we went over just 2 weeks ago, okay, and we were talking about this seeding moment, okay. This is like what a new moon is all about, is the seed. So it's important to think back to 2 weeks ago, and now seeing like with the thing that was being seeded, what's being brought to light now. But we'll kind of go through all of this here, okay. And this is just a short version because these are going to deal with certain transits, certain aspects specifically to the sun and the moon, or really specifically to the moon, but history and lunations move the same way, not as separate events on a string, but as one wave passing through stages. And so that new moon that we had in Cancer, that was a seed, planted things unseen. It's because it deals with the subconscious, if you want to remember that. And then you have the crisis, what he calls the crisis in action, okay? And this is where you have this resistance that comes in, this crisis point that comes in, even in a small way, and then there's an action that needs to be taken around it. After that, the moment that we're in really right now, as I'm recording this still and kind of moving out of, but this is the integration. So what has survived from that you're going to now integrate into it, okay? And then you come up to the climax where the things are brought to light because of this new integration, and this is where the releasing comes in. And then after this, you go into the absorption of all of it, having it all taken in. And really realized it, and it's so fitting too with us coming out of the end of the Mercury retrograde. This is why it's such a powerful thing, because I usually do these streams with my colleague Esperanza Bence Tarot. But I did want to just do another video because there's so much to go into, and I didn't want to miss anything, and I'm so excited to go over this with her, of course. And then we go into the exhaustion phase. Not talking about Esperanza, of course, talking about these moon cycles here. We go into the exhaustion phase, okay, where it's spent, released, all this energy. And it's really speaking to just being like, okay, we've done all this stuff here. I'm kind of good on all of this, and this is still a part of that full moon. Some people will put like the climax absorption as exhaustion into the full moon part, and the seed crisis integration into the new moon part too. So that's and they technically are. So that's important to remember about that. But you just get to where all the energy's been spent around these things, and this is why the release is so important, and the things that are brought to light, all of that. But just so you know, this is kind of a lunation cycle. I wanted to put that up there. With the guy who really created this modern standard for the lunation cycle that we're looking at today. But yeah, new moon on July 14th was the seed, the full moon is the climax. And this is, of course, simplified from Rudhyar's work. And this is just going over some of the last things that we've been in, okay? Now, if we're even going back to the last full moon, this is where I was saying, full moon in Capricorn, where we see the first cracks in the structures, in the institutions, but in the structures in our lives, in the institutions on a world stage. And really, what has this last month been about? Like, we're just seeing things are cracking, things are not working. And especially when we're looking over at the stuff that's going on in Iran, and look at like what our administration is doing right now. I mean, they're like a child throwing a temper tantrum because they know that we're running out of oil, and it's just like they're not getting their ways. And you're seeing how fragile our systems really are and how much they depend on these things. And so it's going to be up to us during the next, what is it, 19, 20 years, where Pluto is in Aquarius, where we take our power back as people and we realize, okay, like we don't need to be relying on a lot of these systems. And there is like this systems kind of rulership as well when it comes to Aquarius. That's something I kind of forget about sometimes, is that it is ruling like a lot of systems. And it makes sense too, because the old ruler of Aquarius was Saturn, which is what people are typically thinking of with systems, and with and they'll put that into Capricorn more specifically, but that's the established systems. When you're innovating new systems, that's Aquarius. Okay. But yeah, we saw these first cracks that are in the structure. And so what is this completion we're coming to now around these cracks in the structure, and how is this going to be dealing with the collective itself? Okay. And then this is even going to be, I mean, us seeing how we do work well together as people, as a community, and how we don't. And so there's this releasing around how all of our systems currently operate versus where we can go with these systems. Okay. Back in, and then June 30th, that was when we had, it's so crazy how fast time is just flying by right now. That was when we had Jupiter entering Leo, though, okay? And then with Jupiter entering Leo, now, of course, I have a whole thing. It was a great popular stream, too. I have a whole Jupiter Leo stream that really goes into the energy of this, so we're not going to rehash a lot of that stuff. But Jupiter entered Leo, and this is where you really have the year starting to open up for you in all the possibilities, because there was so much of these like pivots that needed to be made at the beginning of the year, and building up of new things, and all this stuff. But now the momentum is here. Okay. And that's where you really kind of started to feel that was June 30th. The momentum's here. And then you kind of felt that little sneak peek of the momentum going. But then not long after that, we went into the Mercury retrograde, of course. So July 3rd and 4th, Mars conjoins Uranus. Okay. And that was what I was talking about, the Trinity trigger at 3 degrees Gemini. It was late 3 degrees though. And then going into the 4th degree of Gemini. And so, yeah, July 3rd and 4th there. And then you have July 14th was that new moon in Cancer. Okay. And then that was the seed in the dark, of course. You know, the seed in the dark, especially when you're dealing with the Cancerian themes. But what I was talking about is this seed you're planting around the integration of the emotional and mental bodies. If we're just going to put it in a short term, because it was different for each sign, of course, but there's this play between your emotional body and your mental body that was really going on back then, especially with that new moon. That was when we first started to get this is where we had that Mercury. This is the first new moon, I believe, with Mercury. Yeah, it was with Mercury retrograde as well. So there was, and then it was also, if I remember right, it was also conjunct. Yeah, it was. So that new moon was also conjunct with Mercury retrograde. So it was pretty wild. That's how you knew there was this integration going on between the mental and the emotional that we keep on bringing up. And then July 20th, 21st, Jupiter's second peak, the Weblock. So we kind of just moved through this Jupiterian peak that we had here, and then this is your next wave of feeling that Jupiterian energy too, of where can I expand things in my life? Okay, what are the changes I'm going to need to make these expansions in my life? Because of course we have pretty quick here, within a couple of days, from when I'm recording this at least, we've got Saturn that's going to be stationing to go retrograde. It's already stationed actually, but it's going to be going retrograde. And yeah, like a day or two here. And then July 23rd, and that's of course today, or yesterday, excuse me. July 23rd, that was Mercury stationing direct. Okay, so now Mercury's moving forward again. Got about a week and a half for it to get through all those degrees that it was retrograding. So the fog is starting to lift. I would correct what it says here with the fog lifts. The fog is starting to lift, especially around these mental and emotional things here, okay? And then all these things that may have had to deal with family, things that are coming back up from the childhood. It is very nostalgic, so there's a lot of stuff coming from the past to be addressed in a more mental way that maybe was something that stuck in an emotional way before. And this is where I talk about that emotional and mental integration that comes in. But yeah, now the next week and a half is really about the fog lifting around these things and seeing where we can start to integrate and all that. And then, of course, the 29th coming up here is this full moon, and that's the climax around all of these things too. But then a huge releasing that comes with that too, a subsequent, what were the stages here? Absorption and then releasing around it. Okay. And then we'll just kind of double back here to what we're talking about, because this is really what's spooking out a lot of us astrologers. It's a little bit freaky. But we had that Mars conjunct Uranus, Mars-Uranus conjunction. That was on July 3rd to the 4th there, okay? And it's just so weird because we always look at these and okay, there's always some type of event that happens, usually within a couple weeks, but we went back over other examples where it happened a month, 2 months out, even up to like 3 months out, that we've seen with the Mars-Uranus conjunctions. So we're still holding that background charge, and then to have such another charged transit come in, it really makes you wonder, are we going to see something? What's going to happen here on the world stage? And of course, I would put this in line with the predictions that I gave before. And it throws kind of some new stuff into the mix where it could be some other predictions I didn't even think of. So maybe I'll do some predictions on the fly here of what it could be, because now you've got the sun and moon as major parts as in all that. And then the sun is on this midpoint, exactly on the midpoint for the new moon here. And that's going to be the midpoint of Mars and Venus. And then, of course, right on the other side, you got Pluto on there, too. That's on that. I mean, it's not on it. It's like within a degree or two of it because it's conjunct the moon. But then you got that opposition midpoint, too. So some Martian, Venusian stuff going on, things that could be dealing with money, that could be dealing with our relationships with other country, violence, war, ambition, drive, all of these things. That really comes into it. And so it kind of speaks to me as like people talking about draft stuff. That's what's just coming through to me right now, like talking about the draft. I know there was some new news I was reading on that too, which was really interesting. But okay, a trigger that produces no visible event has not failed. The charge was not spent, it was held. Outer planet configurations routinely delay. The energy does not dissipate on schedule. It accumulates until something gives it an exit. So it's kind of how you think of lightning. It's so funny because Uranus is in the mix of all this, which rules lightning, okay, which rules electricity. But how you think, like, what exactly is lightning? Well, it's this buildup of ambient energy that's happening up in the clouds, in the atmosphere. And then it becomes so much of it, it needs to discharge that energy. It needs to even it out, and then so that's where you all of a sudden see it discharges down into the earth. Okay, and that's what we call lightning. And so when we're looking at astrology, it works in the same way. So we've got like a major energy that's being held. Maybe you can sense that in the people around you with what's going on in your life and all that. It's kind of this, think of it as like this pent up lightning that's just ready to be charged and released. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, with that, we're just really waiting on that, and this could be that moment where we really see that charge get released. Or is it going to be even more of a charge? I wouldn't be surprised if it's more of a charge and we just get more and more over the summer until it finally releases, dissipates, all of that. But I don't even like to say dissipates because that makes it sound like it kind of just fades away. But no, it's more of like a violent shock. So what we're really looking at with this Mars-Uranus conjunction, all this is building off of. So but yeah, outer planet configurations routinely delay. The energy does not dissipate on schedule. It accumulates until something gives it an exit. More charge is stored now than there was on the 4th of July. Okay. And so now, now that we kind of got that out of the way, just with all this stuff, so you realize on the world stage what kind of energy we're working with here. So you can kind of put that into your life. And then, of course, we'll get into the signs. But this really tells you, like, what is this thing that's been building up that needs to get released? And especially around these Leo things, around being courageous, around having more of this sense of self, expanding the sense of self too, bringing that all into being. And then another thing I bring up is like Jupiter, it expands, or, I always say it's the planet of too much. It makes more of it, but it expands what it touches. So if this is an area of your life in whatever house of the chart it ends up being in, and you'll see what house of your chart it's in, and we'll talk about that in the readings here. But whatever part of your life that really deals with the Leo energy, That's where you're going to want to be aware. Like if things are going good there, then great. Then they're going to expand and go like even better for you. Okay. But if things aren't going good there, you can't just expect Jupiter to come in and fix all the problems. It actually would make things worse. So this is why it's great these energies are coming in, because even though it may feel tough, you can address a lot of these things and then get it ready. Especially what I was talking about Jupiter being reborn coming through here. And this is a part of that rebirth that goes through, so it can actually bring in the good things, and you have that opening to bring in the good stuff. But we kind of talked about the chart, but here's the chart to actually look at for you, okay? I want you to actually be able to see the chart. Oh, it keeps going on my other screen. See the chart here. But yeah, so this is what I was talking about. We've got the Sun and Jupiter right here, okay? Conjunct in Leo. Okay, and then of course at the complete opposition of it, you got the Moon and Pluto conjunct in Aquarius right there. And it's making the handles of this like barbell basket that everyone's talking about, okay? I won't keep on rehashing, you know, me being a hater on the barbell basket, but you know, I just think that, of course, and then I start to rehash it, but no, I just think everyone thinks it's going to fix their lives. And it's like, well, what have you been doing this year? Have you been doing things to fix your life? Then it'll fix your life, sure. But you know, it's like, what are the things you've been doing? So yeah, you got that. We got Mercury right here. It's starting to move forward again, starting to go direct, as astrologers would say. Just saying it so that you will understand what I'm getting at you here. But yeah, so that's going on right there. And then of course there's all these themes that came up. We already went into the themes that came up around the Mercury retrograde, but this is playing into it, okay? And then you're also dealing with this Mars and Venus square too. Mars-Venus square. And so it's really important with that Mars-Venus square, because you've got right here, it's literally the Sun and Jupiter are exactly at the midpoint of it. Okay. And then as the moon is exact with its, the full moon is exact, then there's this like almost, it's an exact conjunction. It's literally 4 minutes of arc off. It's crazy. It's like 4 minutes of arc off. It's just such a wild placement there. So the midpoints fall pretty much even on Jupiter right there. And we'll talk about the midpoints a little bit coming up here, because I didn't, I mean, sure, I know about how to use midpoints and all that, but I try not to lean too heavy into midpoints. I like what I've noticed, just as an astrologer, what I've personally noticed is starting to do all these things like the progressed charts, and then you start doing like further progressions off of that, and then you're doing a chart off of that. Like the further you get away from the basic chart and the major planets, I feel like the less potent the astrology is when you start using the asteroids and all that. And the asteroids are good, but even the way I learned asteroids was it's the sprinkles that go on top of the ice cream. It's not really the main thing there, okay? It can add a little bit to it, but you don't want to lean on it. Especially like if you got a conjunction to it, except for like Chiron pretty much. I feel like Chiron's a pretty powerful asteroid there, but no, like this is just the way I view these things. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there. But going back to what I was saying about the midpoint specifically, it's more about if you've got a major placement that's right on a midpoint or very, very close to it, there is something to be said about that, because it's being sandwiched in, and there's just a whole slew of things we could go into about what that means and how potent that is. But this is why you really haven't seen me use a lot, like any midpoints until now, because sure, I know they're there, but I wait to see to when the midpoints will really hit on something. And so this is where we're getting that right there, because, you know, like I'm not really going to miss a midpoint, because my AI can look at the midpoints. It's going to be like, oh, just so you know, like the midpoint of this is blah, blah, blah. So I don't need to look at tables all day. I can just be like, oh, that's fascinating. Let's, you know. So AI is really, if it hasn't already revolutionized astrology for you, it should be revolutionizing astrology. It's a lot less time to look at these presentations that I put together. I mean, I can put them together. When did I put this one together? Like 2 days ago, maybe? And I like to just put them together early to be safe, so I know it's all ready to go. But, I mean, this maybe took me, 30 minutes would be stretching it. I'd say it probably took me like 10 minutes, 30 minutes to just look through it, like all together to look through it, make sure it's good, make a couple corrections, that kind of stuff. So But yeah, so of course that's really what we've got going on. Uranus still in Gemini. Okay, we've been dealing with that. You know, we've got these all these outer planets: Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and then Jupiter joining the crowd here. Okay, that are really and that's like what's creating the Barbeau basket. But then before that came into place with Jupiter there, I was talking about, I was really honing in on this mini grand trine here between, or you know, grand sextile with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which was hanging out for, it's been hanging out for a while now, and where it's not the last we're going to see of it. We're not moving out of it anytime soon, okay? Because we'll have these retrograde periods. These planets move super slow, and the first one to move out of it, out of formation with this, is going to be Uranus, because out of these three, it is moving the fastest. But there is something that's being set up in all of our lives and on the world stage right now, and it's just really hitting this peak moment. I mean, that's what it feels like to me. But at the same time, if it's going to hold on to the charge, I mean, the longer the charge of this gets held onto, you can expect the bigger the event that's coming through is going to be. And we all are kind of feeling it in our bones, some big event that's about to happen. But 3 hits in 7.5 hours: Venus square Mars, Sun conjunct Jupiter, and then full moon exact. Okay, so just amazing hits that we're having right here. And then this isn't even mentioning that midpoint, that this all falls on the Venus Mars midpoint, which is also pretty incredible. So, but we'll go deeper into all this stuff when you get into your charts and all that. All right, 2 poles. Now this is the axis we're talking about, and that's the thing I didn't even mention is the sun. I just said it's conjunct, and it's almost an exact conjunction, but it's Cazimi to be more specifically. So Jupiter is right behind the sun, okay? And then, so it really, well, this is what people will say about the Cazimi. It's kind of that rebirthing moment I talked about for a planet too. But then it's also where you can really focus on the thing that planet rules. And we went over the rulerships of Jupiter and everything, and it's going to depend on how it's placed in your chart. We'll take a look at all of that, but these very Jupiterian things in your life that are needing to be looked at, or that you have been looking at, there is a new clarity that comes. It's the eureka moment. It's the aha moment when you have the Cazimi. More specifically, when you're dealing with the Cazimi, like a Mercury Cazimi, because it's dealing with the mind. But you know, in this sense, Jupiter's dealing with the beliefs, so you still kind of get a little bit of that aha moment. Okay, the greater benefic sits in the heart of the sun, hidden by the light and at maximum power. Okay, and then Aquarius here, the moon conjunct Pluto. The moon crosses Pluto for 4.5 hours before the full moon perfects, then carries that charge into the opposition. Okay, and that's the opposition. You know, Leo dealing with not so much. I mean, Aquarius is kind of, or not Aquarius, excuse me. Aries is kind of more the self, but Leo is like yourself in your authority. You know, and being in that center stage and all that, and the focus being on one person, versus Aquarius having this focus on the collective, on groups of people and all of that. So the reveal happens before the climax. The underworld material surfaces first, then the light hits it. So what is this thing that's going to come up that's going to need to be addressed? Okay, and it's going to be very closely related to this new moon that we had, and even going back to the full moon that we had in Capricorn too. There's a lighter relation to it, but really this last new moon we had about 2 weeks ago, that's really what it's dealing with. All right, and then we're just dealing with the dignities of these planets too. We'll just touch on this briefly. So of course, when this is happening, it's a day chart. It's a diurnal chart, because the sun, I believe, yeah, diurnal chart. I was like, that's the right word, right? But it's going to be with the sun above the horizon. So Leo, as I said before, when we were talking about all this in its domicile, the only essentially dignified planet in the chart. And I thought that was really important to remember. And that's something I mentioned at the beginning, of course. And Jupiter is the benefic of sect. You know, at least during the daytime here, it's going to be the benefic of sect, because we've got Venus at fall. So, okay, and then that's also Cazimi. So the right benefic for a day chart fused with the sect light, okay? And we've kind of went over, I have a video too that goes over a lot of this, if you're looking to learn more on this, and I'll probably even remake the video too. But you know, and Saturn here, that Saturn's in Aries, it's at fall, okay? So this is where it starts to lose its power and everything. But But also, I would say this has probably been a pretty powerfully Saturnian year for a lot of us, even though, because some of us, at least someone like myself who has a very strong Saturn, I kind of need it in a rough position to make the Saturnian changes that need to be made, because otherwise it'll just kind of be like, it'll just give me all the time in the world to get done what I need to get done. So that's kind of my experience with having a strong Saturn, like +8 dignified Saturn. The malefic that should behave this week is weak rather, and turning back. And then Venus is in Virgo, also at fall. I was having a conversation with a couple people as Venus has been in Virgo, and I loved this analogy that I heard from one of my colleagues too, which is like saying that Venus is Virgo is the sign of the Virgin, okay, and it deals with the purity of being a virgin, that kind of stuff. And Venus is in there just kind of like naked and afraid, before all of this stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. Like that's a good way to look at like the rough time Venus has in there, the goddess, in her power, in her sexuality, in all of her glory and stuff like that. Like in this time where there's a kind of being naked before God type of vibe. I really liked that. But yeah, so that's just interesting. It kind of gave you a view of what that is. I thought that was really helpful when I heard that. But out-of-sect and debilitated. The softer benefic cannot soften much. And so this is kind of, to go back to my original point, what I've been talking about with people is this feeling of disgust around a certain thing that's going on. Just maybe even annoyance, but disgust. And you've probably been feeling that for the last, like 2-ish weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But that's something I've majorly been feeling. It's just disgust around certain things that are not. I'm a Virgo rising, so it's going to deal like a lot with myself and the way that I relate to the world, And I'll probably I'll leave it at that. But I was in a bulking phase recently, and then now I'm in a cutting phase, and it's just like it's always rough for me to have. And I'm a thin guy. I'm not by any means claiming that I'm fat, but I do monitor my body fat percentage, and so it's always rough for me to have an extra percentage or two of body fat, and that's kind of been the thing for me. But it hits in a lot of different ways. Not the only thing. That's just an example that I'm willing to give, so I don't sound like a terrible person with other things I've been disgusted with. And then we've got Mars, which is the out-of-sect malefic, the troublemaker, and the planet driving every hard angle tonight. And so, yeah, the thing with Mars right now is, remember I was saying we had that Mars-Uranus conjunction, so there's still a major charge being held by Mars, and then it's going to be wired into all of these other things, especially with this happening right at the midpoint. That's where you can see this energy pop right over into the sun, okay, which is this midpoint of Venus and Mars that we got going on, okay? The energy pop back over and see it spill out into the world. You really can't. But if the universe wants to make a bigger event that's going to happen, then it's going to make a bigger event around it. And that's just going to be what it is. And so it's the longer this energy is held on to, the more it builds up, the more uneasy I kind of get around it. Even though I'm Aquarian and I love disruption, I love the rebellion, I love all of this stuff, it's kind of like, I'm getting a little worried here. All right. And then this is, so just I'm talking about these midpoints. So I'm like, let's just like talk about what midpoints are really quick. We're going to go really fast through this because I want to start to get to the charts pretty quick here. But an aspect is a relationship. A midpoint's a location. So you take the degree exactly halfway between two planets. Nothing is there, but if a third planet stands in that spot, the first two discharge through it. I thought that was really important to put through, is when we're dealing with the energy and the way it moves through the planets. This is so important, okay? And so with what we have now is the sun being the midpoint of Venus and Mars. That's the sun sits on, the sun sits on the Venus-Mars midpoints. Every pair has two, the near point and the opposite one. And so we were talking about that, and both of those midpoints are live right now. Orbs are tight, okay, under 1.5 degrees. And I even say 1.5 degrees is kind of pushing it. Okay, and that's how tight these ones are. Well, this one's exact, which is insane. But a midpoint is a mathematical point, not a body with a field around it. Hard contacts only. Midpoints work through discharge, not ease. Okay, so it really needs to land close to there. And then Alfred Wheat of Hamburg School refined, but that's like where we really see it. And this is a modern technique, by the way, guys. This is why I'm kind of like, I like it, but I'm not going to put a whole lot into it because I really like to go with the tried and true things that we've been doing since the beginning of recorded astrological history. I really like to go with that kind of stuff. Now you could be like, well, how come you're a modern astrologer after you use the outer planets? It's like I'm always running the original 7 planets in the back of my head, and the outer planets, they are collective planets. I use those to get if I'm looking back really far in time, it gives me a quality of the time, and then it can just tell you what to expect within the time we're in now over a vast period. Not really great for specific predictions because you can see we're still waiting on these predictions that I gave. We're still waiting, and I was giving like a window here when if it's going to happen, it'll happen between these dates. Well, we've got this charge of Mars there to discharge through, but since it didn't, we're now waiting. Okay, and I'm not the only astrologer who did that, but now we're waiting for it to discharge through something else. And so this could be that moment that we're looking at where we get that discharge of these energies and see this spill out into the world, which really heralds in the next 7, 15, 20 years in these cycles. Okay. All right. So look at this midpoint. Okay. 0 degrees on the dot here with the sun. And then it's like literally like, what is this? Like 1 minute off, or like a 0.01 degrees. I don't know if that's necessarily translated to the minutes particularly, but 0.01 degrees there. So pretty much exact on the moon. Okay. And then with Jupiter, it's really only like 0.07 degrees off, or I'll only do it in minutes from now on because it's like I don't like to have to convert from degrees to like minutes and all that stuff, because I think you would convert if it's like that, because then wouldn't that go up to like 99, right? But anyway, but yeah, so Venus square Mars, this is your desire against your drive. Okay. And so that's what are the things that like, okay, these are the things I've been wanting, but this is kind of what I need to be driven towards. And this all really ties into what I was talking about. Okay. And that was one thing, I think if I go back here, that I didn't even mention here is like I was looking at this square here, and I started talking about other stuff, but even just talking about what is a Venus Mars square, and that is that desire versus drive. Okay. And then it's interesting though, because it's reversed of what you would typically see, but there's going to be something around like data, and like facts and logic and all that with Virgo going on in it. And then you even got Gemini too, which is like the thinker and all that, but the communicator. So maybe there's this drive to be around more people, but you are desiring to focus more, and this is just one way it can manifest, but you're desiring to focus more on perfecting the things around you and all that. And like, I want all these things around me to look perfect and be nice and clean and all this stuff. But then there's this push here that you're getting to like, okay, that's good enough for now. We got to move on. But it's hard to find that balance. It's going to be difficult to find that balance. And I think the balance will really be found once you have Venus move into Libra here, because of course that's going to be dealing with balance. So that's going to be, and Mars is going to be catching up too, because we're going to have these really interesting retrogrades. So, and I shouldn't say catching up specifically, but it's going to be getting closer by the time both of these go into retrograde. So that's another thing to keep in mind here, is that it's telling a story now that's going to play out over the rest of the year. So there's that going on. But yeah, we have that square. And then the only other square that we're dealing with here, it's going to be Mercury and Saturn for this too. So with the Mercury-Saturn square, it's really about, in what I'm thinking about, what are the things that I have personal responsibility on that maybe I've been overthinking. This is also going to deal with the Mercury retrograde, stuff that came up during the Mercury retrograde. And I need to, and the square is loose at this point. Okay, so this is probably something that's more specific right now, or in the last like week or so. Okay, but what are the things around this Mercury retrograde where I've been in my head, maybe where I've been my own worst enemy because of trauma that I have, because it is dealing with this reminiscent thing, or where am I allowing maybe family, it could even be a mother figure, to get in my way where it comes to these responsibilities I have, these new things I want to create for myself, this new life I'm trying to create for myself, the new structures, this new career move I'm making, all of that. And there's some type of tension that's hitting. It'll still kind of be in this peak energy, but you'll be kind of rounding it out at this point and needing to fully release that as well. So those are the major other aspects. And then we have also with this moon, last aspect, because the other aspects we're looking at, these are aspects we've thoroughly went over already, guys. So I'm not going to re-go over them, because they're sitting there and they're in the background for all this, and it's part of that Barbo basket. But we do have Chiron, which is going to be, and this is like a very, very loose square here. It's mostly just squaring Pluto. Like, I wouldn't even give that square to the moon right there, okay? But it's loose, okay? It's been loose, but you're still going to kind of feel it a little bit. And this gets into what I was saying with Chiron, dealing with the self-worth and all that. And then, like, what around self-worth, what around a wound that I'm going to be working on for the next 8 years or so is about to come up around this full moon, okay? And it's a sneak peek now. You might feel like, oh, I got through it, like, in a couple months. Like, no, it's gonna be revisited next year, and then you're gonna be in this like cycle, this constant cycle, because the last 8 years of Chiron and Aries, it's really been around this wound that deals with the self, that deals with the masculine energy, how you utilize it, maybe how you run from it. It's all gonna depend on the chart, depend on the person. But so now I went over those aspects I kind of brushed over, excuse me guys, but got that going. We just went over the midpoints here. I didn't read the bottom part though. Venus and Mars do not merely aspect this full moon. Their midpoint is the full moon axis, exact to the arc minute. And that's the thing I was talking about, is like the minutes and the arc minutes. Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you so much. I don't know if I've seen you in chat before, Monica. Monica, well, I'll just say Monica. I don't know. I can't get the end here. But thank you so much. That really means a lot. I'm happy that you're enjoying it here. And then the friction is not a side note. It is the axle the whole lunation turns on. And the planet forcing it is the one sect analysis already flagged. Okay? And then let's go into... And then this is really just dealing with the signature here, these outer planets. We'll brush through it because I want to make sure we keep this pretty timely. I like to spend an hour going through all the different signs here, and so I'm running like, oh, I'm kind of on time. But we've got the Neptune. This is like what I'm talking about, that mini grand trine, or the the grand sextile, some people call it, between Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus right there. And but when we're talking about the midpoints here, all three sit on one another's midpoints at once with that, okay? And then Saturn is also tying into the Moon-Mars midpoint as well. And so there's a very Saturnian thing going on here, bringing up those Saturn themes that we've been constantly doubling back to during this reading here. So that's really important to note too, is just how potent this full moon is. It's very, very important. And then, so this is what it says, like, said honestly. I like how it says that for the presentation here. This is geometrically entailed. Given those sextiles in that trine, Neptune has to fall there. It is not a discovery. It is the same fact seen from another angle. But the angle matters. Read as aspects, Neptune is one participant. Read as midpoint, Neptune is the outlet. Okay, and so there is still this thing around the dissolving of the structures, the dissolving of a lot of things in our lives that we've seen ever since Neptune and Saturn moved in back in mid-February, when they moved in and to that 0-degree axis right there, 0-degree Aries point, the world axis. When it moved in there and it started dissolving the things in our lives, the structures that we have, creating new things, allowing us to dream bigger, as we've seen Saturn separate from that. Now we've been able to put those dreams into reality. We're at those initial stages, and this full moon is going to be such a big part of that, especially with how potent it is. And then of course bringing in that Saturnian stuff. So, but it's so important to bring in the Neptune aspect too, because Neptune is really what dissolves a lot of these things. Okay, and I love how I think it was Robert Hand who said it. I think, because I heard this through one of my other astrologers, Levin, and I think he said it was Robert Hand, but I know who Robert Hand is. And he was talking about, where Neptune is the reality, and like Saturn is the reality, Neptune is the illusion or the dream world. But it's like the way that he put it was Saturn is really the illusion that we see as reality, and Neptune is what's real, and it's about us. So there's this interesting play between them, and that kind of gets into the quantum mechanics and what we, all of us as light workers, if you want to say, as awakened ones, recognize about really the nature of our reality is kind of the illusionary aspect of it. Even looking at modern quantum mechanics and saying like my desk here is like mostly empty space, it just feels solid, and then there's an actual electromagnetic aspect to where I can't pass my hand through it, that kind of thing. And this gets into a lot of that stuff that like the book The Secret talks about. Not that I'm necessarily a fan of that book, I think it's more intro level, but you kind of get the gist here I'm talking about. Saturn looks uninvolved by aspect. By midpoint, it is standing directly in the middle of the emotional drive in fall and turning retrograde 3 days before. All right, and now we got the tarot pole, and then guys, we can finally get to for each zodiac sign. So excuse me for taking a bit here, but this is just such an important full moon, and I really wanted to give you guys like everything I could pull out of it over the last like week here, and the things I was just thinking of. But I did, so I pulled this, I'd say like 2 days ago or something, but I always will pull these cards with the intention of it being for the full moon, and or the new moon, whatever it is. And I find it funny how well they land. At least, I mean, the one from the last full moon, it dealt with all the mental and emotional stuff. It was all cups and swords. It was so funny. And so this one is super on brand for what we've got going on here. So I pulled the Five of Cups, okay? And then this is, and just so you know about the card, this is traditionally a card of mourning. 3 cups spilled, 2 standing behind, and the figure sees only what is lost. And this plays in so well to the both new moon we had in Cancer. There's kind of this echo of that new moon in Cancer, but then also the Mercury retrograde in Cancer too. So it's like, what are these things I'm just letting go of, that are dealing with the emotion, especially things that are tied to childhood trauma, all of that. But the cups cards are emotional cards, so that's what it's going to be dealing with. Is like, okay, I'm going to keep these things. These are things that give me power. There's Pluto in the mix right there too with this, because the full moon's conjunct Pluto. What are these things that actually give me power that I want to hold on to? What are these things that are disempowering me that I want to move away from? And especially when you're dealing with that opposition of Leo versus Aquarius too, it's very on brand there. But and then it says tonight here, but obviously it's not until Wednesday where we're having the full moon here. But for what it said, but for the night of the full moon, the South Node release. Something is genuinely gone. Turn around before you decide what is left. Okay, and this is the thing with that release too of these nodes. Remember, I was talking about that at the beginning of this, is the nodes just in a couple days here, they're moving into the new signs, okay? And they'll be in the critical degree of those signs, the 29th degree, the anaretic degree is what it's called. And so it's going to be really powerful all at once. So there's this release around where the nodes have been for the last year and a half. And then also the new things we're going to need to start releasing over another year and a half period too, especially with the Leo energy. But I want to be a little hesitant on talking about releasing of the Leo energy, because right now it's about leaning into that Leo energy. And a year down the line, that's when you can see what you want to like fully release, and then what you want to take with you, because there is this expansion within that Leo energy coming in. But we'll kind of stick to the cards here. I don't want to go on all these tangents for you guys, but yeah, South Node release, something is genuinely gone. Turn around before you decide what's left. Okay, and so I'm sure a lot of you are feeling that in your life, but when I get to these other cards, I mean, you'll really see it's just freaking crazy. Temperance card, okay, the alchemical middle, 1 foot on land, 1 in water, pouring between 2 vessels without spilling. And it's so interesting because I have my card, I still have the cards like right here. Actually, I have all 3 of them. I like to keep them out for a little bit after a reading, but if you look here at the Temperance card here, actually let me go full screen for you so you can see a little better. If you look at the it's a little reflective here, but the Temperance card, it's like the water bearer. See that? The water bearer. This guy's pouring 2 cups, okay? And then it's alchemical because he's got that triangle, the alchemy triangle, like on his chest right there. But Let me go back here. But the reason I bring up that water bearer thing is because where is this full moon in? It's in Aquarius, the water bearer. Okay, so you already have that going on too, which is just incredible. This water bearer energy, this Aquarian card. I view the Temperance card as a very Aquarian card personally. But yeah, very Aquarius energy going on right here. And then it's like, what's going to be alchemized? And then you have to think about it with that alchemization that's going on. This Aquarian moon is conjunct Pluto. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's just insane. Okay, so you've got that going on. Now, it's not our first. Well, it might be it's not our first Aquarius moon while Pluto's in the sign, but it might actually be the first one conjunct Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So that's interesting. I'd have to go check that, but there's probably like a 70% chance that's correct. And then tonight, okay, which is of course the night of the full moon, Wednesday. That's going to be what was it, the 29th? Venus square Mars, okay? And then desire against drive, blend it, do not pick a winner. And so just on top of all of that, it even speaks to, and these are also connected. So we went over all the aspects and why they're so connected, but it even connects to the Venus square Mars too. And really this is that alchemical middle, blending it, not just picking a winner too, okay? And that's what I was talking about, finding that balance. When I said when we get out of these squares, especially that square with Venus and Mars, you're going to learn how to find the balance between it. It's not about picking one or the other. And I was kind of forgetting about the cards, and I was even saying that too. So you can see when the tarot hits, I mean, it hits. And this is why I love tarot, okay? Why I'm trying to get better at it too. Like, I'm definitely better than most at it, but I definitely want to get better with it. Like my colleague Esperanza Vente Tarot. She's just so incredible at tarot. And then we've got the moon card. It's so funny we got the moon card. I think for the last one I got the moon card too. It was either the sun or the moon, or I might have even gotten the sun and the moon for that new moon one. But it's interesting whenever these, and I'll shuffle my deck so well, and it's not like I'll get all the same cards, so it wasn't shuffled well enough, but I'll just end up getting this moon card, or the sun card when we get these new moons, full moons rather. Because of course this is the full moon, but the moon, the card, illumination that distorts, a path between two towers, a dog and a wolf, something crawling from the pool, okay? And so that's really cool too, because you can see that. I won't maximize my screen again or anything, but you can kind of see the dogs right there. And then you even have the scorpion, right? I mean, I don't know, man. Some would say I think it's a lobster actually. It's actually like a lobster, but I always think of it as a scorpion too, because Scorpio is a water sign, And there's that scorpion that crawls out from the water too. And remember, Pluto's in the mix, which is the modern day astrologer ruler of Scorpio. Okay, and in that Pluto is conjunct the moon. So that's just another interesting thing. But then you've also got the dogs going on too. I think that really speaks to that square that we're talking about again, because you got Venus in Virgo, which rules pets and all that. So there, just something to throw at you if you got pets or something's coming up with your pets. I've definitely seen that with people around me. I had a very dear friend whose dog just passed away. I think it was yesterday. That's when I read the message, at least for it, and I'm going to reach out to her. I've been a little bit busy, and I wanted to give her a little space for a bit, but yeah, that just happened. So there is like a pet thing that could come in. You may be dealing with something with pets. But yeah, the lunation itself and the moon on Pluto, what surfaces is real and what you think you see may not be. Okay. And this is where that thing kind of comes up. And this, remember, I even said death could be a part of this too. So, but that's not to make it bad or anything like that. That's like, there'll probably be 10% is even kind of stretching it of the people who are really going to be dealing with death in a major way for this. So you probably aren't going to be affected in that way, but it's worth noting at least. It's more about what's coming to the surface, what's getting ready to be transformed, especially in the Jupiterian area of your life. Okay, and it's in the Leo part of your life, but that's where Jupiter is for the next year. So, and then it's going to deal with those Sagittarian themes, the Jupiterian themes of, long distance travel, knowledge, learning. It could even be like mentorship. It could be I'm just trying to like think of all these different Sagittarian rulerships, but knowledge is a big one. Your belief systems, that's another one right there, but all of those things. And there we go. All right, the wider field, what this charge is building in the world. We'll I might brush through this a little bit. This is stuff I've covered really. Uranus trine Pluto, conjunction seeds. Okay, the same pair conjoined. Oh yeah. Well, we could kind of go into this. Is really just talking about the relationship between Uranus and Pluto, how they're trining right now, from when they first conjoined in like 1965, 66, and it just speaks to this progression we're seeing within the world itself. Okay, and we could get into all the examples of the progression of that you see, like whether it's talking about the human, like the genome versus like the discovery of it, and then and this is dealing with like other aspects, but you get this progression. So really the 60s here is where you see the start of the spiritual movement. So there's this new level of spirituality we're getting ready to move into, because 2012 to 2015 is when we were dealing with the square of those. Okay, now we're in the trine. Okay, and so that's just really important to note. Or would it be, yeah, that's the trine. Yeah, okay. But yeah, like, so you just see this progression between them as you go through these longer cycles, and this is really dealing, especially now, with the collective. I mean, Uranus itself, it's dealing with the collective, but now like Pluto's in Aquarius, so you got that. Trine is not a promise that things go well. It means forces, once in open conflict, start to coordinate. And that's the thing. People will wonder, because sometimes I see these positive aspects of sextiles and trines, or what are thought of as positive aspects. And it's like, well, it just means it's going to be easier to work with. It's not going to be like, it's more of a coordination. It doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy transit, okay? But you're seeing here the things that were radical to talk about in the world, okay? In 2012 to 2015, in that area, like a lot of the things that we talk about with the Epstein files, or like that all of our world leaders are like traffickers or child abusers in some type of crazy way. It's all very accepted. I mean, I went into my cardiologist like a while back, and I was talking with the nurses about the Epstein files. It's like it's everyone's talking about these things. And so the things that were radical at the square, which is that 2012 to 2015, these things were radical to talk about. If you knew back then, like I knew, you freaking remember, these things were difficult to talk about with people. Everyone was like so brainwashed and stuff, but now they're becoming the ordinary things to talk about. It's becoming part of the cultural zeitgeist. So these are also things to just remember in the background of all this. And Saturn, structure, institution, is in fall and turning retrograde 3 days before this full moon. Like I said, that's in a couple days here. It's in like 2 or 3 days from now. So, but before that the full moon comes in. So, we had, and this is where you see the play off of the Capricorn full moon that we had last month, where I said you're going to see the institutions start to crack, start to crumble. They're not going to fall apart yet, but you're going to see the beginnings of the cracks in the institutions. And then this whole thing is being passed off by the moon to Saturn as it goes retrograde, which will continue that process of us seeing things with the institutions just not going well. And we'll just see that the institutions aren't going to last much longer for us. We're going to have to make new institutions over a period of like a decade or two. Oh, all right. And now we are getting into the signs. Okay, I'm like 10 minutes late, but these are actually a bit shorter because we went into a lot of deeper stuff for each sign. So it won't take me as long to get through as has been with the other ones. So the way I'm going to structure this is I'll briefly touch upon all the things we've been going over for each sign, okay? With the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, the Mars-Uranus conjunction, Jupiter moving into Leo and all that, and then we'll relate it all into, as best as I can here. Hopefully I'm not forgetting when I get it to any signs, but as best as I can here, roll that all into what this full moon is going to bring for you, okay? And so the where you've been, okay? So this is like what Jupiter's already been doing. Jupiter has been enlarging your fifth since June 30th. Creativity, romance, play, what you make for its own sake. The July seed landed in your fourth, home, family, the private root. And then that July seed that it's talking about landing in your fourth house, that is the retrograde that's going on in Cancer. the Mercury retrograde that was going on in Cancer, because it's now direct since like yesterday. And there was that, but then there was also the new moon in Cancer. So there was something around your home, your family, your private life, but then also around, what would you say, reflecting back on the childhood, like I said, too. There's the emotional body, okay, and the mental body with Mercury there, all of that coming integrated, okay. And then through that, you had Jupiter move into your fifth house there, and it started to oppose Pluto and everything. So there was this thing between like, how do I use this to tap into a new level of creativity? How do I use this to show up differently in the people's lives around me, okay, in the lives of the people around me? How do I use it to do that? And then also to be more innovative, to be more innovative in these things, and show up just like through reaching this new level of creativity. So what you're going to see here is a highlight around this creativity that you've been in. And now maybe if you're an Aries, you've launched something recently, okay, or like a new project that you've launched, that you went on to, because 11th house is going to rule like publishing. So there's a new product launch that you can do, or project launch that you can do or have recently done, and you're really going to see what that can bring in for you with Jupiter being in here, with the full moon coming in and everything, and how transformative that can be. And then, so what you've been making stops being private. It meets the group, and the group is where the reveal lands. You find out who exactly is standing with you. And this is really the important part here. This is about, and this on in the most essential way, because this is why I always say, Aries has, I say it every single time I do an Aries chart reading, Aries has such a straightforward chart, because what I love about the Aries chart is you're dealing so directly with what the collective is dealing with at any given time. So I was just talking about that in the collective sense earlier with what's going on. A lot of this sounds very similar to what Aries is dealing with, and so there's a reason for that with that, okay? But a lot of these things that you've been working on in the background, that you've been, or in the home even, like, I mean, because that's going to kind of be in private, but these things that you've been working on in private with yourself too, and especially since the beginning of the year, but you've seen this peak of it to where you're tying a bow on it now that's coming out to where you can be the center of attention. You can bring it to other people, okay? And you really can show people what, and you have to remember, Saturn is in Aries right now, Neptune's in Aries right now. This is a time for Aries to just glow up, okay? I mean, a lot of times I would say Aries probably watch their Leo friends doing this, but it's like, channel some of that energy that your Leo friends are always bringing to the table. Like, you can be the center of attention, okay? And you can show people what you really can bring to this world, okay? That is like the biggest thing right here. But of course, this is where you're reaching that climax around this, okay? And so you're going to see what does need to be released, okay? And the south node, like the nodes, the north and south node, they're going to be switching at the same time. So even though you're getting into all this new energy, pay attention to what needs to be released around this time as well. All right, Taurus. And then what we've had here, before I even read any of this stuff too, I'll just kind of like give my whole thing with Taurus and stuff. There has been this thing that's been going on around the home. Okay, with Jupiter having moved into your fourth house, which is ruling like the home and the family and all that stuff, there has been this thing around, okay, well, in the home, like maybe I can essentially have, I don't know, do like a home addition. I can do a home addition. There's this new work that's been going on in the home. I'm dealing with that personally, like there's like this expansion in the home that is happening to me, because I'm getting 2 bathrooms done right now, and it's like, in some terms it's been a nightmare, but once it's done, it'll be awesome. So, and this is where that opposition to Pluto comes in too, that you have going on, because that's going on in your 10th house. But there's an opposition that's dealing with, okay, what are the things you're going to first unearth in the home that are going on? Like they're the things that we found, because it just started with a plumber looking at my toilet, and then it just cascaded out and when affected another bathroom. I won't rehash all of it, but that's going on. And then also with the moon moving in there too, there is all these new things that you've been doing in the home. And I predicted this too for you guys, like going back to the Jupiter and Leo stream. Now you're going to see where you can integrate that into the workspace and create a new career trajectory for yourself. Okay, and you'll really see where that hits into your daily cycle towards the end of the year. But now you can start to formulate that. Okay, it's in its infant stages where you can formulate this new playoff between what's going on in the home and what's going on with your career trajectory, especially with the things that you've been working on. There's kind of this wave you have coming on of this revolutionary feel around the way that you view money, especially around like the early July. There is where that really came in. This new I just want to say revolutionary way of and it might have even come about through something that was a bit disruptive of how you view not only your self-worth but the way that you make money and all that, and all this is going to play into that as well. And then of course we had that third house seed, so this is the thing that was happening around friends, your friend groups, the way that you communicate and all that, and this reflection that you had to the past about those things. Okay, there's that nostalgic feeling and all that, but this integration, all I can say, and you'll know how this specifically hits you, but there's this integration of the emotional body and mental body, as I keep saying, where it deals with your communication method, where it deals with your everyday type of really it can deal with your everyday work too. This is why I say you're getting this preview of the work stuff that comes up and how your daily work life is going to look later in the year. There's that preview that comes up, but it's because of this integration between the emotional and mental bodies that is going on right now, and this seed that was planted around it 2 weeks ago during that new moon period. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this really quick and we'll move to the next though. Jupiter has been widening your fourth, home, family, foundation. The seed went into your third, conversations, siblings, the daily local world. This full moon, the fourth is crowned, the 10th is exposed. And that's the thing right here, is there is this new thing exposed around the 10th, and all these things you're focusing on in your fourth house, in the house of the home, it's going to be something you can bring into something that's going to be exposed within your career, okay? And it's exposed in a big way too, because Jupiter's in that mix, so it'll kind of be a bit, I don't want to say explosive, that's more of a Martian thing, but it's kind of it'll be like a little extra. You got the Leo energy in there, which is dramatic, you know, and that because this is all opposing Jupiter, you got the Leo energy, right? That's dramatic, but then also the energy of Jupiter, which is very exuberant or like abundant, too much. So that's going on. But the move, a good move to make right now, the oldest axis there is what you are at home against what you are in public. Something about your standing surfaces, and it traces back to the foundation you have been quietly rebuilding. And this is why I like to read them first. You guys know I'm not just like making AI do these for me. I like that it covers all the bases and everything like that. But this is what I was just saying earlier in this reading here is that there is this play between, you know, where you're coming from, your roots and all that stuff, the home, the changes you're making within that space yourself, and then how that is going to reflect your standing, your reputation, your career, those kind of things, where the way that people see you in the public eye. Okay, so great stuff. I mean, it's been a little rough for Taurus, you know, the last, I don't know, maybe like 2-3 weeks with a lot of great stuff, getting you ready for the great times, but it's just been a little rough. And now you're seeing that you can really start to have fun with it. Okay, still a little to work through, but at least it's starting to let up. All right, Gemini. So with Gemini here, I was like getting ready to read it. I'm like, well, let's just go ahead and do my own reading first. So with Gemini here, this has been going on between your third and your ninth house. Okay, so this is really dealing with the third house. It's dealing with your like social circle, like your closer social circle, communication methods, that kind of stuff, like your daily mind and the daily way you think, and then also with your beliefs on the other end too. Okay, and so maybe like picking up new, there's been this pickup of a new belief system that you can say has come through. Maybe, and I'd say that was since Jupiter came into Leo too, so maybe like a couple weeks now. But just like a new belief you have around something, but not like a major belief. It's just something that you're like carrying in your day-to-day life that is this new belief that you've been integrating into your mind and all that. And then through that, you've been able to achieve new things. Okay, so there's kind of that going on, a new type of maybe even work ethic that's coming up too, especially if you're doing your own type of work, if you've got clients or you work from home, you're on your own schedule, so, you know, something like that, you're freelance, that would definitely, which sounds like Gemini, definitely. But so that's going on too. And then you also had this seed that was planted in the second house. So that was with the new moon in Cancer, and then also Mercury retrograde in Cancer too. So there has been this revaluation, literal revaluation around the way that you make money, the way that you view yourself and your self-worth, knowing what you're worth too, especially if you're someone who runs clients and all that stuff. And as you're having all of this change up within your self-identity as well, because you had during 4th of July coming in the Mars-Uranus conjunction too. So it definitely created kind of a, it tested the roots of your identity to make sure that they were sturdy and they could handle things that come out of left field with them and all that. And so you saw what you could kind of left behind and what stuck with you and all that through that disruption coming in. And what's great is you're so mutable, Gemini. So like that was supposed to come in for you to see like, well, I am so mutable and I can bend with the wind and all these things. But at the same time, like these are things that really should go, because this created issues with the disruption, especially for the next 8 years as we're dealing with these, because really like Geminis are one of these signs I'm really keeping my eye on, who are going to like, I made a tweet about it, who are going to take over the world, like literally in the next like 5 years. So you want to make sure you've got that good sense of identity that's going along with it because of just the way that you are. That's really all I could say. But yeah, this what we've been talking about with these last readings is this stuff in the second house around your self-worth, around the way that you make money, and how you're going to really bring that into your essentially your daily work life. Okay, bring that into like your daily work life, and the moves that your daily work life has been making too. But it really is just dealing with these belief systems. So especially with any beliefs that you picked up here, it's probably, in knowing you, Gemini, it's probably been like a lot of little different tidbits and stuff that just assists you in your daily practices. Okay, but then which ones are you going to want to leave behind? Which ones worked for you in this time period? So look back over the last 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even month, and see like, okay, this is what I want to leave behind. This is what I want to go. Because the whole idea is for you to be able to be very adaptable during this time, because you are just already so adaptable, Gemini. So you really just want to be ready for that. Oh, curls and curves. July 29th is your birthday on the full moon. I bet you it's going to be a great birthday. Thanks for stopping in too. I bet it's going to be an awesome birthday. It's some good energy to work with too. Like, holy moly. You know, we've been a little doom and gloom on the channel, I was saying earlier, with some of this energy. I've been a little doom and gloom, but no, we're finally getting a lot of these energies lifting up. I'm sure a lot of you felt this Mercury retrograde. I mean, it was okay for me. You know, I've definitely had worse Mercury retrogrades, but a lot of people, this has been their worst Mercury retrograde. So I'm happy that it's Mercury's direct now. It's going forward. We still got a week and a half of that shadow period, but you know. But that's really the big thing, Gemini, right here, is to just, okay, what's going on with the belief systems here? What can I really leave behind, and what can I go? And belief is going to be really a part of all of these readings, just so you know, because Jupiter is in the mix. But just really important to know too, because now we're dealing with the opposition, and you know, but Jupiter is going to rule belief and all that. But let's go ahead and read this here. Jupiter has been in your third, voice, writing, and movement. The seed went into your second, money, resources, what you value. Mars and Uranus have both been running through your own sign. And so this is like where the Mars and Uranus are coming through your own sign. That was what I was talking about with kind of the identity, there being a test around your identity in early July. That's what's really important to remember. But like most of it should have stayed, but you just realize like, ooh, like maybe I need to kind of let go of some of this. And that's where all of this stuff with the Mercury retrograde, that's like what it really dealt with, is letting go of these things, because maybe they were getting in the way of how valuable you view yourself to be. And then that can all move into the way that you kind of zip around on a daily basis and have fun. So that's like just an amazing thing right there. But yeah, and then also the ninth house thing I didn't talk about is really travel too. So for Gemini, maybe you just got done on like, you could have gotten done on like a work trip, you know, because the moon is about releasing. It's coming into your ninth house, okay, where Pluto is at too. And so this could be like a work trip, or like a vacation where there was this new clarity that came around for you, or something like that. It can be something like that. I'm trying to think of how else I could put this too. This could even be like a retreat that you went on, like you could have went on a spiritual retreat or something like that too. But the whole idea is it would have been transformative for you. And then you're really going to understand when we come up to Wednesday here, when we come up to July 29th, that full moon, that's when you're going to see like, oh, I can release these things. And then like, this is the thing that I can really, and I needed to release these things around all these other things that have come in my life. And we kind of mentioned that earlier too, these new sense, the new sense of identity, all that stuff coming in. So, the third is crowned, the ninth is revealed. And that's literally what I just said there too. So I love that it says it here. And then a great move to make. Your message meets the larger frame it belongs to. Teaching, publishing, distance, belief. Say the thing, but say it as the whole idea, not the fragment. Okay. And that, I think that even plays into what I was saying a little bit earlier too. It's just kind of like, it's less of a transformation around the self and more of just like these smaller self pivots that are really going to help you perfect things. Okay. And oh, hey there, Liz Wolfenstein, it's really good to see you. Really good to see you. It's so funny, I was just talking about Geminis. I know that Liz Wolfenstein here in chat is Gemini. So and I missed one of your I have missed a couple messages here. It's good to see you as well, Victoria Jewel. And it has been crazy energy. I agree with you on that. Holy moly. I don't even know why. Like, it's funny because it's like such wild energy, but it's just been making me laugh because it's so it's like beyond parody. So maybe like that's how I deal with trauma, is I laugh at it. But I missed your message here, Curls and Curves. All three of your children are Geminis. Two of your daughters, they're June Gemini. My son, May Gemini. Oh, so you're used to dealing with a little bit of chaos then, huh? But I think you probably know how to like lay down the law because you've got your Leo. So like you just like how to kind of like have that that like authority stick and just be like, okay, enough chaos, we gotta stop for one moment, let's get it together. Like, I bet you're really good at doing that for your kids there. That's so funny. Yeah, I love Geminis. I think it really is. Geminis and Leos are the sign I have the most of in my life are Geminis and Leos. And then I think Libra would come next, but it's Libra risings. I don't think I know any Libra suns, but I know so many Libra risings. It's really funny. All right, let's get here to Cancer. Cancer. Okay, so with Cancer, I remember this one pretty well because there's a couple of people close to me with that Cancer rising that have been dealing with it too. This has really been speaking to probably like a raise that you got, an increase in money, something like that, which has been really cool. And through that, you've probably been able to pay off debts. That's a kind of thing or you're being more aware of debts that are coming in. The big thing with this that I was saying is with whatever new money that you have coming in, Cancer, whatever new resources, whatever is new at your disposal now, okay? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be money per se, but whatever is new at your disposal now, not making sure this last couple weeks has been making sure you don't exhaust that right away, like not spending money as you get it, like because all of a sudden you have more money coming in now, your quality of life is higher, but you still aren't saving any money, kind of thing. That was what it was really addressing. And what is a part of this? Does this mean I use this extra money to start to pay off my debts or to start to pay off my loans or any of these things like I may owe money on, or am I going to just spend this on kind of frivolous things and all that? What's really important is you learn to invest this money and tuck it away, or just save it, something on the second house axis or the eighth house axis right there. That was like the really important thing. But then also what that's been doing for you, it's kind of the reverse almost of I think what was it, like it might have been Gemini or Taurus or something, but it's almost the reverse here, is that through the new money coming in, then in that new value coming in, this has had you reflect on childhood stuff around lack, most likely. It's going to be dealing with the parents. It could be specifically dealing with like the mother, but it can really be dealing with both parents. Childhood stuff around lack, though, it really comes in through this retrograde that we've been having. That's really the big thing, is the retrograde and the new moon. It brought in something around, okay, there's this new money coming in, but like, this is how I did it in the past. I'm not going to do it that way anymore. Okay, I'm going to plant that seed. That's what the new moon is about. Plant that seed of intention and not do those things anymore. And then through that, I'm going to have a better, and this is where the emotional and mental body come in and the integration of those. I'm going to have a better sense of identity. And you know, you can even say like my value within myself too, you know, because that's the second house. But then your first house is in there too. So, but there was this huge thing around this time's going to be different. Okay. That was the big thing, that especially the last couple of weeks. And if you ended up being like, oh, like I kind of ended up spending all the money, but like at least now you have a game plan and you know what really needs to be different for this time to be different, for whatever this advancement is with how you can make money, the amount of money that's coming in, the way that you view yourself when it comes to money. Like, and it's all about like with that second house and these placements that I'm seeing, it's like belief around like I can have money in the bank. I can't have money in the bank and have it be safe too, you know? Because some people, they don't feel safe keeping a lot of money in the bank, so they just spend it as fast as they get it. Like this could be something like that too. But let's go ahead and read this here. The seed was planted in your first. It was about you. And Mercury spent the retrograde there. Jupiter has since moved into your second, income, resources, self-worth. This full moon, the second is crowned, the eighth is opened, okay? And then you can even say the release too. The eighth could be this like oh, okay, I actually I took care of it. I paid off that one debt that I had with this extra money, and now I can let new things come in. There is something you could say maybe about inheritance that comes in too. If I didn't, I didn't really necessarily touch on that, but there could be a thing around inheritance that you dealt with. I would say that's probably something you're going to deal with though, and this was kind of your test coming in to see. So there's that. What is yours against what is shared? Debt, inheritance, another person's money, another person's power. The eighth does not reveal gently, but you have been the one building the resource. Okay, and that just like ties into what I'm saying. Yeah, the eighth is not. It's so funny because people get really scared of the eighth house, which is Scorpio energy. People get kind of scared of that house, but it's like, well, I wouldn't necessarily be scared of the eighth house. What I'd say is, you know, it's a hidden house. So hidden things can come out of it. It is one of the houses that kind of is going to rule death, at least like the physical act of death. So that's where it can be a little bit scary. But the thing is, when you're dealing with that, like it can reveal amazing things too. It can bring in great things, especially like I'm not someone who deals with second house money transits as much as which I get, I'm sure, because my Jupiter is in my second house, but I get a lot of eighth house money transits more so, and that's where my Venus is placed. So that both of my benefics are on the second and eighth house axis there. So that's really where I'm like dealing with, you know, that axis there, and that's my experience with it that I can give you. But no, Cancer, really it's just like I was saying with Taurus, where it's like it's probably been a little rough lately, but you can expect it to really lighten up around this full moon, and you've gotten through all of the difficult stuff, you know. And now is the time to really have fun this summer too. One of the few water signs that gets to kind of purely have a fun summer. So, but we'll move on to Leo. Let's go. I've been loving doing Leo readings for a while now, just because of this like Leo energy we're moving into. It's like, let's freaking, I like these Leos, man. Okay. But with Leo here, okay, this is in the first house, okay? So really, there's been these things that have been going on that really came out of nowhere, that created disruption, okay? They could have created disruption just within your networks of people, or by extension, your networks of people. But there is this thing of like a hidden thing coming up around the family, okay? And then that really gets addressed, especially with this Mercury retrograde. It's going on in your 12th house. So it is that hidden house too. And it can be like this fantasy maybe that I had around the family. Like this has now gone away. you know, and I have to like really come into this new reality about it. And then as Jupiter comes into the first house here, what it's telling you is like, okay, well, since I can't like focus on these things anymore, or since this was the truth and this is the new way that things are, I just need to focus on myself. Okay. And not only am I going to focus on myself, but I'm going to be like so good and shine so bright that it's just going to be so incredible here, you know, and then like through this expansion here, then I can essentially any of the things that came about within that 12th house stuff, within that family stuff, you can create something to where it will, I guess, I don't know if I would say like fix it, but it'll create a new dynamic between that family relationship that's going on, especially when you're looking in the second house here. Okay, that's where you got Venus in Virgo in that second house here, and so that's really dealing with it is dealing with money, but then it's also dealing with self-worth, and it is this kind of self-reflective state too that you can be in. And this, remember what I was saying about Venus and being like super critical too. There's this reflective state that you can go into around like, well, how did I like how was the way I viewed myself and my value reflecting into all the things that have went down over the last like 3 weeks to a month or something like that. And then Chiron, of course, that just moved into your 10th house. Okay. And so this is really what you see around like, oh, maybe I had this wrong in terms of money making, and this is the adjustment I can make. And this is all going to come back to that like self-worth and stuff like that. And this is the level of money I can make here. And so through that, like now I kind of know, and I'm going to refine these things. And it's because of this belief that I held around money for a while. I'm able to like fix this thing that's going on. Okay. So there's that part of it. Of course, what you got is Saturn and Neptune have been in your ninth for a little bit. So you've been dealing with this thing around new belief systems, new structures that are being built in your life. But back in like February timeframe, it was really fresh. Now you're seeing this solidification that has happened, particularly the last 2 months. You've really felt that solidification between the things that you wanted to come forth in the world, the things that you were dreaming forth, way back in like February, to where you're landing and where you're at now and what you've been able to build for yourself now. And then, of course, like this, and this can be like around travel too. This can be, I mean, there is this publishing type of aspect to it as well. So this can be like going public with certain business ventures. It can be that kind of thing. There's the career stuff you can throw all into the mix of that. But the important thing to say is there's a solidification between dreams and reality now that you've been able to bring forth into the world. And remember, Saturn is about to go retrograde now. It's stationing direct. It's about to go retrograde. So now is the time where you get to go back over those things, all those Saturnian things, and kind of make these refinements to them. Be like, oh, okay, like this didn't work, but this did work, and this did work, and this did work, and I dreamed these things into existence, and I want to dream these things into existence. So like, this is how I'm going to do it, and I was able to do it with these things. This was my method, so now I can do it with these things too. There's also a thing when I was talking about all this stuff with the self. On the other end of this axis, there is this seventh house, which is going to deal with marriage, long-term relationships, business partnerships, contracts. This can even be if you're someone who takes on clients. These would be like your clients and your clientele and all that stuff. So there is this release. I was going to say reversal, but it's less of a reversal, more of a release. That's kind of an interesting word though. But there is this release around that too. And so like maybe how much this could be like, how much am I investing like into this relationship, what needs to be released out of it, but specifically is like, how small does this relationship make me? Because that Jupiter is in the first house. It's right there with your sun. Okay. It's coming in right here. And this is about you leveling up in a huge way. Okay. Just all Leos in general. And so you're getting like a free Jupiter return with this transit, honestly, for the next year that you have it. But a big part of that is not allowing yourself to be stifled by the people close to you. So this can be that close, intimate relationship, marriage or something like that. But this can also just be dealing with business contracts that you've made and all that. And we've just been in the Mercury retrograde. So this was about going back over those contracts, okay? Refining, reassessing, reevaluating those contracts. So you've got that right here. And then this full moon is going to be a time where you can release a lot of those ones that aren't serving you anymore, because the new name of the game for you, Leo, is like, what serves me? This needs to serve me. And then everything else will fall into place around it. All the things that I've been working on, that I've been seeing, and that I'm trying to bring into fruition will work as long as I can really bring into myself holding this personal power. We even talked about an energy vampire thing with Leo back during the Jupiter retrograde thing too. So this is really about that final step of reclaiming your energy too. Okay. And then I don't even think I read any of the stuff here, guys. So I'll read this really quick. Where you've been, Jupiter entered your first on June 30th. The single most generous transit you get. The seed before it was in your 12th. Unwitnessed, solitary, hidden even from you. And then this full moon, Sun and Jupiter are Cazimi in your first house. Moon and Pluto sit in your 7th. in the move. You are their chart tonight. Yeah, I'm saying that. See, I just said it. I didn't read any of this. I just started reading the thing. You are the chart tonight. What you have been becoming in private meets another person's reality. Partnership is the mirror, and mirrors do not flatter under Pluto. And this is what's really hard because seventh house is Libra. So I kind of brought another aspect of that in, but I would agree with this. What you have been becoming in private meets another person's reality. Partnership is the mirror. So this could even be a new business partnership. Okay, this can be a new relationship even. This can be a lot of these newer things too. I was only talking about that side of the letting go part of it, but that's another side of it too. And because it's seventh house, it's really about you yourself having that discretion of finding that balance within it. Okay. What's that balance going to be of what needs to be released so that new things can come in? I think that's the best way to put it here. And this is how I view everything in life: releasing things so that new things can come in, releasing certain energies so that you have enough bandwidth to allow a new energy to come in. I think that's the best way to end that for you. But really great stuff, Leo. I took a little longer on yours. I'm going to try to burn through these a little bit quicker though, because I'm about to hit my 2-hour time mark, which I try to stay under. I'm going to go a little over today, but all right. Virgo. So with Virgo, I am a Virgo rising, so this will be a bit of an easier read for me just because it hits me too. Not that I only read it for my own thing. I am going to look at the chart, but I can riff off of it a little bit easier. But the whole thing that's been disappointing for Virgos this year, I think, is with feeling a lot of these energies coming on, especially for someone who follows astrology and knowing the astrology itself. Oh, you're very welcome, Curls and Curves. Good to see you in here. I'm happy you liked it. And oh yeah, Victoria too. Yeah, you're Leo too. I bet this one was hitting. This was hitting. I bet. I thought of you a couple times in that, but I was just like, oh yeah. Okay, let me stick on Virgo here. So Virgo, Virgo Sun, Virgo rising. The thing with Virgos that's been going on right now is we've kind of had this year. I think you'd probably say like chomping at the bit. So that's really the thing is we're getting ready for a very public year, but it's not necessarily this year. Okay, in most cases, it's a complicated thing for me because it's a 10th house perfection year for me. Like, so I'm supposed to begin being public, but then I can't go too hard too fast or expect it to be too fast. That's the weird thing with me. But there is this public thing, this publicity, reputation, career, like all this stuff that we're leaning into this year because of what's going on on the axis with our 6th house, which is dealing with the daily work. But right now it's about setting up the daily foundations, on the daily here, for what's going to be like, what are going to be good tools for when you all of a sudden take off and become more public. But right now, staying more in the background, behind the scenes, or not as noticeable is going to allow you to perfect a lot of things, and it's going to allow a lot of gifts to come in, a lot of secret, not secret, but I guess kind of secret. It's more like partnerships that come in early, so you know who's really on your side before this huge blow up you come into next year. That is going to make you much more public. It's going to make people seek you out in a much more major way. Okay, so that's really the things that we've been working on this year, especially in this last month too. But the hardest part of it is coming to the acceptance that you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. You're going to have to stay behind the scenes a little bit longer for this year with Jupiter being there, okay? And then when it goes into your first house, this is where you reach that new level. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a year that you become much more public, but it just is going to pale in comparison to how public you become next year in the middle of the year. So it's really even like next year going into 2028. Those are the big years for Virgos that we're looking at. Okay, right now is about all of this refinement behind the scenes that you can do. Okay, and so this is, and then also making sure you're taking care of your health. Okay, this is where you can have hidden health issues that come up, especially around this full moon. Okay, because Pluto's there, it's going to be there a long time. So that's something less that you're going to look at. But with the full moon coming in here, that's where you can all of a sudden see something around health, but then also maybe a release of the way that you viewed health, that you viewed your daily routine and all this stuff too. So this is all going to play in, and it's going to be a major part here. This and the eclipses that will come too, a part of this refinement you do on your daily routine that is meant to set you up for the stuff next year so you can handle the amount of publicity that you get, so you can handle where a career is going to take you and the different connections you're going to be making and all that, because it's going to look, your life is going to look wildly different next year than, and trust me, I don't like to say this because I'm a Taurus Virgo rising, like sure, Virgos can do the change and all that, but they're both earth signs, and Taurus hates change. And so it pains me more than anyone to have to say this, but your life is going to look wildly different next year than it looks this year at this time. So that is like the really big thing to recognize here. And a lot of the things that you've been building with other people too. We were looking at this eighth house, which is dealing with other people's resources, stuff where you've been pooling your resources with other people, building something together. You're going to see a big payoff with that too by the time we get into next year. That's really going to fully solidify and all that. So as we're moving into all that, and I bring all this up to say the main part of the reading, which is kind of like making moves in silence. If you're looking at the 12th and 6th house axis here, which is what it's on, okay? 12th house is that hidden house. It's one of the hidden houses, okay? But it's more specifically that the rest and retreat that you go into. Okay, it's the last sign of the zodiac, 12th house, it's Pisces, last sign of the zodiac there. That's where you go to rest and retreat. That's why hospitals are ruled by Pisces, by the 12th house, okay? That's why you've got all of these kind of things. It's like it's the end of your life in the zodiac. Now, I'm not saying you're going to die or anything like that. Calm down, but what I am saying is this is the rest and retreat at the end before the new begins, and this is for really like the whole year. Okay, but you're going to expand in ways that are unseen by people, that is so incredible, and they will get to see that when Jupiter moves into Virgo. Okay, because then Jupiter is going to be on your ascendant. It's going to be ruling the self. It's going to be where you get to like expand out, and everyone gets to see you. And then that's going to be happening around Virgo season when the sun is in Virgo. Okay, and then you'll be carrying a lot of that Leo energy over into Virgo with it, and like where you can work with it much better, and it's gonna be much better for you to work with in that regard. Okay, trust me on that, because I've got this stuff going on in my 12th house. So there's that going on. But yeah, your main takeaway from that is making moves in silence. Make your moves in silence that you're doing right now. Okay, forge your alliances in silence, but just keep it all off of the table. And it's because of the stuff that can really come in through the 6th house, first of all, which is your house of, in my opinion, I do 6th house as hidden enemies, or as open enemies, excuse me. And 12th, of course, is hidden enemies, but you want to be careful about the enemies that can come in through that 6th house. So that's also really important there. And then, but with the 8th house as well, okay? That's also another thing. You've got so much going on in there. Chiron, it just cleared there, but it's going to go back in your 8th house too. So there is still like wounding a little bit that can come through that 8th house, through that hidden house. And then also with Neptune there, which is very illusory, and it can even be deceptive. You really want to deal and that's going to be there 14 years. So take this with a grain of salt, but Saturn's in the mix. So this is where you want to be looking out for career enemies, okay? Whether they're open enemies or hidden enemies, they're going to present themselves, even the hidden enemies, but your hidden alliances will present themselves too. And that's what's so important about moving in silence during this time. And then through all of that, you're going to move into next year and really, I would even say, have a better reading than the Leos had, which was a great reading. But this is where you kind of bide your time. So Jupiter has been in your 12th, the quiet stretch, the work nobody sees, the year before the year. The seed went to your 11th, friends, community, what you are hoping for. Okay, and that's something I kind of brought in too. There's that seed, and then your hopes and dreams and your communities and all that. And then kind of a restructuring around, you could say the friend group too. There's that restructuring that came in. Also, the thing with Virgo rising is that I didn't bring up because I'm talking about all this career stuff is you could have had a huge, in the last month, a major disruption to your career, or a major need for a career pivot, a new way about thinking about your career, about your daily work environment, any of those things. That's also very important. The 12th is crown. The 6th is exposed. Venus sits in your sign in fall, okay? And so there, of course, is this Venusian aspect. Venus in the first house. This is what I was talking about, how Venus in my first house right now is really speaking to, okay, well, Venus in the first house is it's about you looking at yourself in more of a distasteful way or a critical way, or Venus in the first house for Virgo, excuse me, but in a critical way. So the way it's hit me is I was in a bulking phase. My body fat's up a percentage or two, and I'm just like, oh God, this is so disgusting for me to like be, and it's not even a big deal though, but it's just Venus being in fall. That's just a part of the energy that comes with it. So the great move to make, and we kind of touched on this already, what you have been processing alone surfaces through the body and the daily routine. Do not read exhaustion as failure. The 12th has been doing real work. And, that's really something I can bring in is the exhaustion I've been feeling. It's been very strange. I mean, I'm still making it to the gym and everything, and I think that's saving me, but there is this level of exhaustion. I think everyone's dealing with it. It's just kind of in a different way for Virgo. All right, Libra. So with Libra here, there has been this thing. This is kind of where I've also been talking about the stuff with Libra. I was saying like, oh, maybe you have a work trip that's coming up where you're going to be doing some traveling. And then there's even like rest and recovery from work because, your 10th house of your career, when you've got the Mercury retrograde in the sign of the home, like that. And what I would also say for Libra, for Libra Sun or Libra Rising is looking at Cancer being the 10th house right here on this. And this is just whole sign. It may not necessarily fall in your 10th house, but you can still use whole sign with, like I use whole sign and my Placidus. So this can still hit for you if you're a Libra Sun or Rising. But I would also say like learning how to not make work your home is a thing that might have come up too. In the last couple of weeks, because I'm just looking at this and I'm like, well, Cancer being your 10th, it's like making work your home almost, or like living at your job, or like not taking a break from the job if you have the ability to, that kind of stuff. So maybe a reevaluation around that. And the reason I bring that up is because there is going to be such expansion within your career that's going on. It's really incredible right here. The career hopes that you have, the aspirations you have for them, all of that, it's a huge thing. And then also you can also, you're in a good window right here for the for this full moon. It's a small window because your bigger windows aren't coming up until later in the year for relationship stuff, but you do have a window for a relationship to come in too, for you to meet someone. That's also on the table here. And I would argue it's going to be through these connections you can make through your career. And that's all to lead me to say, be on the lookout for any opportunities to travel for your job, to travel for your career. Be on the lookout for that kind of stuff, because what this speaks to is an expansion in your networks, but it also speaks about traveling with like in your networks and stuff like that. So this is going to typically, 11th house networks are typically going to be people you know at work that maybe you hang out with outside of work, or you consider yourself to be work friends, that kind of stuff. That's really that's mostly like your 11th house right there. Okay, that's your networking. And through that, you've got Jupiter, that planet of long distance travel, really just like travel that's not part of your daily travel. So it can even be like, sometimes you can just even have it be a staycation, as long as it's like somewhere something you're not usually doing, that kind of feels like a little bit of a journey, that kind of thing. Like that's the travel you're looking at with Jupiter. Okay. And so with that, it's going to be conjunct your sun. It's going to be like, oh, I won this award at work, or I have this new accolade at work. And now they want to either put more responsibilities on me or have me travel for work, put these responsibilities to have me network and make more calls to people and reach out to people at work, that kind of stuff. All of that plays into it. And then, of course, earlier in this month, you kind of had this thing that came into your beliefs around how to approach and deal with people too. That came up. And this is going to play into the energies you're working with right now. But through this, you get to find this new level of creativity within yourself, a new level of courage too that comes in. And specifically for you Libra risings, when I brought that courage thing up, it's really going to hit you because you've got the opposite stuff going on here. Okay, like pretty much all of the signs are their opposite sign in your chart. And this is what's beautiful about being a Libra rising. It does teach you that balance because all of your signs are the opposite sign in the house system, that is. You know what I mean? Because your 11th house is Leo. Like, you know what I mean? So like Aquarius, 11th house, Leo, 5th house, and then you see that on the other end here where Aquarius is in your 5th house. So all the signs, they're working with oppositional energy in each of the houses that you're dealing with as a Libra sun or rising, so really you find a way to hit that balance in an incredible way. And so this just, of course, is going to play more into that too, but it is going to make you, I would argue, needing to rise to the challenge and have the most courage, but then also holding the courage space the best during all of this too. And in the most balanced form, because the thing with Leos is technically Leos are going to hold it the best, but they're going to have to double back, and it's going to be very difficult at the end of the node, the south node being in Leo, where they're going to have to let go of some of that, which is just so counterintuitive for them because they're having to reclaim what they let go of in this time, you know? So, but that's like the main stuff that you got going on, Libra, right there. And yeah, just get ready to be around a lot of people. Don't overcommit to too many people at once. That's a big thing I would look out for. But Jupiter's been expanding your 11th. Network, friends, the rooms you are in now. The seed landed in your 10th. Oh, well, let me go back. The seed landed in your 10th. Career and public role. And then the 11th is crowned. The 5th is revealed. Your ruler Venus is in fall in exactly square Mars. And this is that Venus-Mars squares that we're talking about here. So, I could pop over to those. I talked about that 9th house, but this is that 12th house Venus right here, okay? And so remember how I even brought that up when I was just looking at the 5th house here. I was like, oh, this would actually be a good time for a lover to come in, You also, the 12th house tells me you could also have a lover come in too. That's the thing. And it may not, and the thing is, it may not even look like maybe you're not interested in them now and you realize down the line, that you want to be with them. Okay. Like right now we're in this energy that's kind of a little picky with Venus and Virgo. And it's like, kind of like, well, no. Or it's someone it could just be the total opposite. Someone comes in that you're never into this type of guy, but you're into them, all of a sudden. And it's like, well, just in both cases, I would just say kind of like, make sure you're going a little bit slow with it. It's just the nature of these kind of transits. Make sure you're going a little bit slow with it because you don't want to leave Venus and Virgo and then all of a sudden be like, oh, how did I ever think this person was hot? That's a big thing of a Venus and Virgo transit, okay? It's like you'll be into someone you're never usually into, and by the time the transit's over, you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Like that kind of thing. So be careful with that, but this can actually be a long-term person. It's just on these two different ends of the spectrum where you can have it. It's very difficult when you're dealing with 12th house stuff, when you're dealing with Pluto, 8th house stuff, all that. So it's tough to say, but you can get that pretty good there, okay? The network grows with something personal, and the network grows and something personal breaks the surface. A creative thing, a romance, a child. And this doesn't even have to be a physical child, but this can be stuff with your kids, but this can also be like your baby that you're working on, like something like a project. Okay. With Venus compromise, the instruction is simple. Stop overgiving to keep the peace. And yeah, that's another thing. I touched on that a little bit. I was saying, don't overcommit, Libra. Okay. But, I wasn't even really thinking of Venus being at detriment when we are at fall, I should say, when I was talking about that, but that even just adds to it. Because if you even think about that in the 12th house, and that's being of service too, with the Virgo energy going on, that's really saying like, you kind of like, people aren't seeing the amount of service that you're giving them, and then like how that's affecting you, how that's affecting your Venusian energy. And Venus is your ruler, Libra. Okay, it's your ruler. Whether you're sun or rising, okay, it's either your chart ruler or your ruling planet, depending on if you're sun or rising. But so you want to just be careful on that, okay? But and we got Scorpio here. Let me get a sip of water here. I'm loving the chat tonight. I'm happy. I think I kind of think we just need to talk some astrology a little bit and just relax with one another because it's just been such a retrograde, man. And it's been like my guilty pleasure is just reading people's stories of how shitty their retrograde is because it makes me feel better about my retrograde. Oh my God. But it really hasn't been that bad. It's just like, man, all this housework I have to do. It's been crazy. It all started with a Saturn square Venus in Cancer. And now we're at the freaking, what is it? The Mercury retrograde square Venus or square Saturn. And I don't even think this housework will be done until Mercury is squaring Saturn, which isn't for like another month, honestly. So maybe it's like 3 weeks away. I don't know. Oh, okay. I thought I had to like burp a little bit. Okay. Scorpio. Oh, excuse me. Okay. I did. Okay, Scorpio, Sun and Scorpio rising. So what we've got going on, there's another career thing going on with Scorpio, but it's a little different from the Leos, or I'm sorry, not Leo, from the Libra stuff. Because I was just going in on all the Libra stuff that's going in, but this is more of a like you're hard. Well, I don't want to say because it makes it sound like I'm saying Scorpios aren't working hard, but like Scorpios here are having a pretty like a weird situation, a volatile situation that is happening around them, to where work that they've been doing that has been unseen suddenly becomes seen and recognized, and creates an advancement. Okay, that's really the thing, because with the Libra one I was giving, that's more like you've been being recognized and like you're going to be given access to these new things and all that, and it was really more about learning to take a step back, focus on yourself for a little bit too. But with the Scorpios, it's more like no, they've been putting a lot in and not getting recognized, and then all of a sudden something's about to happen in the workspace. Okay, in I would say, yeah, like in the workspace, but more specifically within your career. So it doesn't mean you're needing to show up to a 9 to 5, but there's something that's going to happen within the workspace. Okay, that is all of a sudden going to put a light on all the things you've been doing for the last few months, and people are going to be like, oh wow, I didn't realize this person worked that hard, is that responsible, had this many skills and abilities, like picks up the pieces for all of their coworkers and this and that. Okay, that's really the big thing that's going on, because you're looking at, first of all, just Venus being in your 11th, which is dealing with service. That means you're always helping the people around you, all of your coworkers and stuff like that. You're picking up the slack, you're helping them with things, blah blah blah. So there's that kind of thing too, but this also can be you losing coworkers, because you have to look at that at fall. Okay, and there's been this thing around like maybe a critical nature in the office space that is surrounding you, and people being let go and all that, and like, is that going to create openings? Is that going to create a shift or a restructuring within the workspace, especially with Uranus and Mars in your 8th house? You know, that's like your house right there of Gemini. That's going to be dealing with the people you're working with on a daily basis right there. Okay, that's another big part of it. Okay, there's this seed that's been planted around the your beliefs around how jobs have been in the past. Okay, and then this is also going to reflect in some themes that you have going on at home too. Okay, home repair, that kind of stuff. It can be, think like maybe having a project at home that you thought was going to be something simple, it expands into something bigger. It can be something like that too. And I say this not only because it's dealing with your belief systems with the Mercury retrograde, the new moon that we had, and that's being in Cancer, but then also down in the 4th house there, you've got the moon that comes in for this releasing around Pluto as well, which is your ruling planet. In modern astrology at least. But then you've even got that Mars Venus square here, right there, that's dealing with the midpoint too, which we brought up. And with that Mars, that's also dealing with your what is it, medieval astrology ruling planet. So that adds to what I was saying about kind of this thing with the home, and more going on at home that you think, but then like there's these new responsibilities that come in through work to compensate, whether it's to pay for home stuff that's going on. Because remember, this is the opposite sign of Taurus, so this is why it sounds similar to the Taurus reading, because it's the opposite sign. So you kind of got these oppositional themes, but it's like kind of leaning more on the workspace than the home, where Taurus was leaning a little more on the home than the workspace. You see, but that's going on. So I'll go ahead and read this stuff, but definitely expect something coming in that's kind of unexpected, that's going to change the work environment for you. Okay, and then actually have your work be seen a lot more. Okay, and then I'll read the Scorpio stuff here. Where you've been, Jupiter's been in your 10th. The best career transit available, really is. The seed went into your 9th, meaning distance, the larger view. And so that's even another thing you can add, distance, the larger view. People are actually getting a feel for that now that Mercury is going direct. The 10th is crowned, the 4th is open, and your own ruler is the planet doing the revealing. And the move to do, great move for this. Public elevation against private cost. Pluto in your 4th means the thing surfacing is foundational, not incidental. Rise, but do not pretend the base is settled. Okay. And so we can we'll look into all that. And then I think that does it for Scorpio here. I'll give a couple more things, but let me read the chat here. I see. Oh, you're sitting outside enjoying the live. Nice curls and curves. Oh, you got neighbors coming at you. What the heck? Oh, that's probably those energy vampires we talked about for the Leo reading. I've been here to remove myself from this live chat for a few minutes. And it was such a beautiful night. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I'm sure that'll come to some type of head uh with the Aquarius full moon, right? I mean, if it's been an issue with the neighbors too, harassing you and everything. I'm telling you, people, if you're a Leo, man, people are trying to get that energy right now. I'm telling you. So, but yeah, so I think with the Scorpio, that's pretty much it. The only thing I would add, yeah, is just not less about finding a balance and more about knowing what you're sacrificing at home when it comes to career, if there's a move to be made there, and vice versa. If there's something that needs to be done in the home, knowing what in career needs to be sacrificed, even if it's just kind of the money that's coming in. You don't have the second house stuff coming in, but you do have this eighth house stuff coming in. This could be even going into a little bit of debt to fix things up in the home. That's what you can also have going on right now, too. But ultimately, it's going to bring you into a better place, especially when you're dealing with Chiron right there in the seventh. That's going to deal with like contracts, home upgrades. If it's stuff like that, there is a part of the home that Taurus rules. It's more like the feeling good and lounging in the home kind of part. That's more of a Taurus thing, too. So even like the beautification of your home a little bit. Some would argue that's Libra. It depends. You could stretch it, but. Sagittarius, though. Okay, Sagittarius, Sun and Rising. This Sag reading, I've been having fun with the Sag reading, so. Well, let's get this one started here. Well, the thing with Sagittarius right now, the big thing, if you're a Sagittarius, you might notice you're kind of finding your way back to Leos too, but a little bit less. But I've seen it with Leos, but Sagittarius specifically is what I've been seeing with a lot of them have been getting back into Christianity, or back into like whatever religion they were raised in. Okay. And this is really because of what's been going on in Cancer here at the same time as this transit of Jupiter into the ninth house. It's looking back at the way you were raised in childhood. Okay. And where you kind of felt like you had this personal power and all that. And so if you may have drifted away from religion, you might find yourself going back to religion right now. This is a huge theme I've been seeing with Sagittarians right now. And it was funny because I saw it after I predicted it in the Jupiter Leo readings. I actually saw it playing out with Sagittarians in my life, or even just on Twitter too. It was funny, like being like, why am I all of a sudden just getting so religious? I'm like, are you like a Sag Sun or Rising? It's like, yeah, I am actually. It's like, oh, there you go. But no, this is going on in your ninth house of belief. With the Sun, and Jupiter there, of course, conjunct. That's going on there. So there are these new belief systems you're going to want to be getting into, especially ones that help serve yourself, that bring you into a greater level of personal power. So if Christianity, this is just the example I'm giving. It can be other religions, gave you that in the past. There's just been this reflection on it that you've had, and you're gravitating back towards that. And I'd say lean into it. The only thing to be mindful of is that you don't become dogmatic in this, okay? And you don't go too far, because Jupiter's going to expand what it touches. So like this can turn into becoming like a total Bible freak. And the whole thing with you is you want to be able to be accessible to the people, because the opposition to this is in your third house. It's going to be dealing with people and the collective in Aquarius, okay? Right there with that moon. So you want to make sure you're not like weirding people out or anything like that, okay? By being like way too extra with it, or like, I've already seen it get extreme where there are people who are into astrology who they have this transit, and you would think they would know the transit's coming on because they're like an astrologer, but they have this transit, they delete all their astrology content, all the tarot content, everything, and then they're like an extreme Christian, and I'm a Christian, by the way, so I'm not even talking shit. I'm just like, that's kind of wild, that's where you can see the extreme side of this. So that's a really big thing that you can have coming in. Good to see you, Esperanza. Hey, I hope you didn't work too terribly hard today. It was a hot one. At least it was here in Vegas, so I'm guessing it was there too. But that's one thing with Sagittarius there. And then, of course, with this going on in the third house, like this is where you can see it happening in many different ways, because this can be where, oh, like my friends aren't down with the new things I believe in and I drop them. And actually, that can be a good thing too, because it just, it's kind of just depending on what you're believing in. You got to figure out if you're being dogmatic in something too. And so this is where that balance comes in, which should be pretty easy for you, but you just don't want to go too extreme, because your seventh house, right now, that's like of Gemini, this is going to be dealing with other people, the agreements you have with other people, also that kind of stuff. But also, the reason I bring up the seventh house is it's the house of Libra, which is going to deal with that balance. And this is like really that house I'm looking towards in a lot of these readings here, to find the balancing act with a lot of this stuff. And because you've got Mercury, you've got Uranus and Mars in that house. There's a little bit of volatility that you may have had already around your friend groups, okay? Even around like a deeper relationship. You might have broken off a longer term relationship. And for a Sagittarius specifically, because of how free you like to feel, that can be addictive. But you don't want to end up with no one around you except for Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like where you can hit these extremes of the dogmatism that we're talking about with the things going on in your ninth house. So it's really about finding that balance and letting like people around you kind of keep you in check a little bit. So it's totally normal to be losing people right now, to be letting people fall away from your life. But the thing with letting people fall away from your life right now is not just like cutting off everyone, okay? And I've seen this from Sagittarians, okay? And I've got stories, okay? But, and they're not even like I'm saying them with ill will or anything. That's what I love about Sagittarians. Oh my, I'm a ninth houser, for God's sake, okay? Like, I've got Sagittarian blood in me, so I get it. But just, these are the things to be aware of, Sagittarius. Okay, let's go ahead and read. Jupiter, your own ruler, has been running in your ninth. Its natural home. The seed landed in your eighth. Shared resources, depth, other people's power, okay? And this was the thing with kind of the cutting people out. Not so much that's happening in your eighth, the cutting people out part, but the seed of it could have been dealing with that, especially with the shared resources, other people's power, finding your own power and all this stuff. This is in some ways how it can be similar to the Leo reading. But with the full moon, the ninth is crowned and your ruler is in Cazimi. The third is revealed. And so I think some astrologers would say that this is about releasing beliefs. You can make that argument that there would be a releasing of beliefs, especially if you went too far with the new beliefs over the last like month or so. As a Sagittarian, then that's where you'll see the release and kind of a redoubling and a balancing act that gets done. But what I would say is it's a great time to, what beliefs have worked for me and what more beliefs can I take on? Because you can, if you're a Sagittarian, you can take on more beliefs than most people, and you can filter them and get through them like quicker. That's just the way. It's just like a Gemini can burn through data and idea, and like even a Virgo, but like burn through data and ideas faster and all that stuff. Like it's just the nature, but specifically Gemini, because that's your oppositional. It's the nature of these signs, okay, with the oppositional energy. So where they can lean on all these mental, informational, communicative things, you can do this same thing with like belief and with being abstract and with being of the higher mind of that kind of stuff. So this is where you can take on new beliefs as well. But we'll go ahead and read the move here and see what it says. Your ruler is at maximum strength tonight. The belief you have been enlarging now has to survive contact with ordinary conversation, and it can't. And so that's exactly pretty much finding that balancing act. That's what I was saying. Making sure that you can interact with other people too. I forgot how I worded it, kind of similar to this, but it was like, I think I said like just making sure you still have friends at the end of all of this. And that's the thing, is like the new belief you have, it has to survive contact with ordinary conversation, not even with ordinary people, because you probably don't even have that many ordinary friends, but it has to survive contact with ordinary conversation. It needs to feel a little bit natural. There's some level of mundanity that we need, and that's hard for us, like people with Sagittarius stuff, to wrap their heads around all the time. But that is something we need to remember, like just a little level of mundanity. And remember, I'm a ninth houser, so I freaking get it. And I'm like got all these Aquarian placements. You think I like the mundane? No, but I understand its purpose and its need. So, all right, Capricorn. Let me get a sip of water. All right. Well, I guess I didn't go too over, like 2.5 hours or something, because we're wrapping up here. Got a couple signs left, just like 3 or something. Jupiter has been in your eighth. Well, I guess I'll read the first one since I already started. Has been in your eighth. Other people's resources, shared finances, depth. The seed went to your seventh partnership. And so this was the big thing I've been talking about with Capricorn stuff lately, is the things that Capricorn have been building in the background. That's been the big thing I've been talking about. What have you been building in the background, Capricorn? Okay. What are all these new pivots? It feels like you haven't had this momentum that you typically have, but like now the momentum is returning. It's coming back. There is something that can come in like an inheritance. It can be an inheritance. It can be an investment that you made that is finally paid off. It can be a lot of stuff like that. Of course, if you have debts that you haven't been dealing with, you're going to see a pressing need to pay those off. That's going to be Jupiter expanding whatever it touches, of course. So, you know, like hopefully you're a Capricorn though. So like 9 times out of 10, that stuff's been taken care of. Like you've been good with that. If you've been putting it off, it's been like in a smaller way. So, I was just looking at your, 70s, lucky. I just assumed it was really hot because it's been so hot. But lucky Esperanza at 70s today. God darn it. Well, I should be happy, but I'm over here just like, man, why did they get the nice weather? The Midwest, that is. But no, so the thing that you've been dealing with, Capricorn, is, you know, now like whatever this new thing is that comes in, whether it's inheritance, an investment, something like that, it's going to allow you to take care of a lot of commitments. So whether this is like a marriage that you've had, where the other person's been kind of picking up some of the slack so you could be focusing on these goals and these things that you're building. Well, now you have that forward momentum and energy. And with this new gift that comes in, you can pay that back, you know, like in a, like not necessarily a literal way, although it might be a literal way, but you can pay that back. And then you've got this stuff going on in your second house axis too. So there is this both releasing around that too. There's that releasal energy of the full moon. So there's that going on too, but then a transformative way that makes you feel about yourself, a new level of self-worth, because you, as a Capricorn rising, you don't like to owe people anything or people doing those things for you, but it was necessary for this time for you to build these new things. Okay. So there's that part of it. And then, also, I would say there can be something new and hidden that comes up around your self-worth though too. It's like, now that I just got a handle on my self-worth and all this stuff, and I like feel better about this, what has this taught me about what I put in self-worth? And that's actually that Chiron that's in Taurus, in the like 0 degrees Taurus right there, Chiron, and that's your sneak peek for next year for some things to work on. Because what's that going to tell you too? And then how does that get in the way of you being your authentic self? This is happening in your 5th house. So you got that going on too. Of course, you've probably been dealing with some things with the daily work kind of thing, whether you're seeking a new job that you're going to, you know, of your daily work and all that. It's less career oriented because you've been looking at career stuff, but this is more about these long-term plans that you have. And that's how your career will look down the line. But then how am I going to have my daily environment be looking now, you know? And this can also be like a health thing that came up too. Maybe about that. Maybe you've recently kind of gotten your health in order a little bit more, made some corrections, that kind of stuff. Maybe in the last like month to 2 months, like month and a half. Yeah. But probably like more closer to that month area. You've got that going on. And then of course there is really just kind of getting into this new vibe of what home means to you. You know, there's you know, back in February was really where you realize, okay, there's no going back. Like, this is kind of my new idea of home, of the family, of all of this stuff, of my foundations and roots even. And then as Saturn has separated, of course, you're seeing that really solidify. Okay, and now, so Saturn's going to go retrograde, so definitely don't feel guilty about like doubling back on maybe agreements that you made during that time and seeing if you can renegotiate, especially now that Mercury retrograde is done, seeing if you can renegotiate things on that level. Okay, can I renegotiate like how I want the home environment to look, especially because of what's going on with your 7th house too. So this really speaks to me as like moving in with a partner or something like that, and then like it's going this way, it's one way, and like I kind of like this for the most part, but I kind of want to figure out this and this looking a little bit different. Now is the perfect time to do that, especially if you felt that during this Mercury retrograde, those things coming up, like, you know, you're good to, if you got the green light to kind of approach them with these kind of things and have that discussion and all that, especially if it's going to help you deal with any issues that may come up around self-worth. And then I think the last thing I would say is even like taking the spotlight can be a difficult thing too. because Capricorn have no problem being public facing. That's not necessarily the thing. I mean, it depends on the chart, but for the most part, that's not the thing. It's that being able to be the center of attention that can be a little bit hard. Okay, and so that's going to be really addressed in the coming months. Specifically, the next coming month, being able to be the center of attention, on a lot of things. And I would say with all those things I gave before that, with that whole center of attention thing, attach that to all that previous stuff kind of at your leisure. Okay, like however it applies to you. Because I don't want to start attaching it to things and throw off the reading, but there is that part of that there. So there you go for Capricorn. Love doing the Capricorn ones recently too. The move that you make, though, I don't even think I read the full moon. The 8th is crowned, the 2nd is exposed. Saturn, your ruler, is in fall and stations retrograde 3 days before, which of course we talked about there. The move, shared money against your own. Your ruler is weak and turning back. This is not the week to force a structure into place. Let the reveal finish before you build it. Okay, yeah. And then, we just ended the Mercury retrograde. We're going to be in that shadow period. So you want to give it some time. You want to give it like another week or two, like 2 weeks from now, a week from the full moon, to really start to restructure the things within specifically probably the home stuff, but also career things you're building. Give it that time if you want. Really do what feels right to you. But know we are leaving this time of this era that you've been in, essentially, and it's time to kind of move things around. And you've probably been feeling that, but your momentum is going now, and you can start to shift these things and make it all work well for you, so you can be as efficient as possible. It's an important thing for a Capricorn. All right, and Aquarius here. So Aquarius, sun and rising. So this has been a fun one for me. I won't even start to read it because I remember the previous readings, and this is just building off of the previous readings we've had, the Jupiter in Leo, the retrograde in Cancer, and new moon in Cancer stuff. But the thing with Aquarius right now is really like falling back in love with your relationship to something, with a long-term relationship to something. So in most people's cases, this is going to be like the relationship with their long-term partner, falling back in love with that. But this could be like even serving clients. If you're an Aquarius who's freelance, works from home, you can fit that into there too. Like falling back in love with the idea of like how you serve your clients, because there's that service part of your 6th house going in there that's been like reevaluated with that new moon, with the Mercury retrograde that we had. You got that. But then, with the 7th house is really dealing with your long-term commitments, business contracts, that kind of stuff. And this even hits in the workplace too. But this is more like you have the option of choosing different jobs. You have different job offers that are coming through. And it's like making you realize and fall back in love with who you are, I guess, making you realize things that need to be released around the self, and maybe like limiting beliefs that you had too. So that's going on too. And there's even like a little bit of this home aspect that's coming in, obviously, with the Cancer stuff going on, but then Chiron moving into your 4th house, which rules the home too, self-worth around the home. And I think all this ties into really just falling back in love with your partner. And not that you fell out of love, but there's like there's been this nostalgia that's come up around when you first got together. And this is a lot of times dealing with children. If you have children together, there's that too. But there's this nostalgia coming up around that. And through that nostalgia that comes up as an Aquarius, it reminds you of just like, it ties you back into this Leo energy that you have when it really deals with those long-term relationships and what it brings out of you, because it does bring that creativity out of you. Okay, and that's so important, especially as you've had this disruption come through your 5th house of Gemini. It has you interacting with new people, dealing with new people, especially going into that 6th house too, dealing with the workplace, okay, and all that. So this can be like a recent career pivot that you went into, and then like now you're considering a new one, and all of this can tie into back into the home. I hope I'm explaining this well, but like back into the home stuff, but all these are connected, like recent career moves, okay, this idea of being in touch with your heart, whether it's whether it's like a chicken or the egg thing. It's like which really came first, like the career move, which like made you fall back in love with the person, or like the person, you had this new understanding about them, and then that brought you into these career moves and things, and whatever it is, okay. But there is this like shifting around the agreements that you have right now with your significant other, with your daily work, with you being in tune with your creativity and the people that you're seeing every single day, and this new energy that you can bring into it, okay? That's been the big thing that we've been talking about. So I just want to say, like, with this new moon in particular, there is this release around these like self-limiting beliefs, okay? These limiting beliefs around yourself. And so if you haven't seen this stuff, Aquarius, because I've been talking about this for a couple weeks here, expect to see it after the full moon, because there is this releasing. And then what you need to know about that is maybe you got to take a look at the limiting beliefs. Otherwise, you're going to be going in circles in a time where you really should be expanding some incredible things in your life. Because Aquarians right now should be, I mean, they went through it for the last year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, guys. Like, Aquarians have been going through it, but they should be at this point where they're really starting to glow up, okay? So Jupiter's been in your 7th partnership, the other person, the seed landed in your 6th, work, health, and the daily grind. And the full moon and Pluto are in your 1st, Sun and Jupiter in your 7th. This lunation happens on your body, okay? Okay, yeah, and I kind of moved that into like the limiting beliefs about oneself and stuff because of the axis stuff, but I would totally agree with that being something that like it hits your body in a specific way. Like your body even taking on emotions. Yeah, I would say this, your body taking on emotions that you brushed under the rug, that you've suppressed. You'll see those manifest in your body if you don't address those. And they really should have been integrated during the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, because this was about emotions and integrating those emotions. So the move, you are the one being revealed. Whatever you have been carrying comes up through you, not around you. The other person is holding the light. You are holding the thing that it lands on. I think that's beautiful. I think that's the perfect way to end it for Aquarius too. I could add more, but I should end it there, because I'll end up, I feel like that should stick. All right. And as I always say, last but certainly not least, because they have the most rulerships anyway, Pisces. So Pisces sun, Pisces rising. So the thing with Pisces we've been dealing with, it has been a little bit of home stuff too. More about having like some communication in the home. Maybe even an argument that happened recently with a person that you're living with or something like that. But it should have settled down by now. Whatever was the move that you decided to make should have settled down by now. And then with that, it really got you into that heralded in the this retrograde period of Mercury, which we just came out of. Okay, and when that was happening, there was like this new way that you want things around the home to be that's more in line with the truthful way of running things, with having everything be above board in the home if you're living with someone else, or just being more in tune with your creativity at home too. And then of course you also have had these things that we've been talking about. This was the Jupiter Leo in your daily work life, realizing how your daily work life can look and all that stuff. And the big thing with that is, okay, like this is kind of my daily habit, and I know where I want my career to be, but technically this career can make more money. And technically it can look different like this, and that every day. And I don't really need to necessarily talk to this person and that person on the daily. And if I have a problem with this person, maybe I should just make these alterations. So these are kind of like the things that you've been evaluating, but just this interesting play between the home, because that's the place where you go to get into your Piscean energy and like reconnect with that and be in between worlds in that state, and then you can carry that state going into your work life. Okay. But you can only do it for so long being around, like, let's just be honest, like normies for so long until like you need to retreat back to the home. And so this is why there's been this evaluation of the things at home, and maybe even a recent argument there, and a little bit pretty much saying like, we need more truth in this house. We need more authenticity in this house. And through that, like, you get to channel your creativity more, which is important to you, Pisces, but then you have that safe space you can come back to, and it doesn't feel, as much as people can talk about Pisces and the hidden realm, and like even calling Pisces liars and all that, which is not my experience at all. I think it's just dealing more with being hidden away, being in that dreamy space, that space in between worlds and stuff. And so the Leo energy is actually going to bounce off of that pretty well, because if you're not in your authenticity, it's like, okay, then you get into like the lower octave of Pisces, and that's like the drinking to forget, or smoking weed nonstop to kind of just forget and to numb yourself and all that. So if that is something you've been dealing with, Pisces, it's definitely, you've been feeling it coming on to be addressed. It should have been addressed by now. And if not, I mean, hurry up before these Leo placements fuck you up, because that's also dealing with your health. 6th house, dealing with your health. So if that's been a type of avoidance you've been involved in, definitely address that. But other than that, no, like I think most Pisces are doing pretty good right now, honestly. And that's more of the stuff you're gonna have to deal with what I was talking about. So I think that really hits all of the stuff in there. Let's go ahead and read this and see if anything else comes through for me. Jupiter's been in your sixth, the work, health, service, routine. The seed went to your fifth, creativity, romance, and play. The sixth is crowned, the 12th is open. Neptune, your modern ruler, sits at the exact center of the outer planet structure. Now the move. The daily work against what is underneath it. The 12th reveal is subconscious material breaking the surface, dreams, patterns, the thing you have been avoiding naming. And I think that really just, I mean, that's pretty much what I said. It totally ties in with all that. And then that's really the only other thing I could add is like if there's been anything in the subconscious too that has been avoided, you know, that's the thing that would be reflected in the home, because the home is such a reflection of you and your energy, Pisces, and because you need that area to escape from this reality. Like that's how you have to think of Pisces, is like they are not of this world. You know, Aquarians a little bit too, but more so Pisces. You have to really think of them like that. And so there's this play that you want to feel, this like I guess you could say balancing act, not to really bring Libra type of energy into it when I say balancing act, but there is a balancing act that's been being figured out. And so you should be reaching this perfection on it. House should be coming into good standing and all that. But if not, you know, Jupiter's coming in. It's going to expand what it touches. If you've been avoiding the health stuff, it's going to get way worse. So please take care of that, of course. But other than that, yeah, I'm really excited for the career stuff with Pisces. You don't have to like do a huge career pivot, but you can see new money come in it like you can see like a much more, I guess you could say, structured way of making money. But if you already have a structured way of making money, it's more like it's this entrepreneurial energy that comes in. So like other ventures of being more visible, getting more clients, that kind of stuff. And then having this new type of work routine that's coming in, new ideas for how your work routine can be, and then new even things that you could think about with health, especially if you like even sell health products or services too. It's fantastic placements for all you like sound healers and you know, like just healers in general that are Pisces. I mean, this is such a great placement for you this year, and will help you really refine your business and your practice. But that does all the signs here. So now we're just looking at what comes next. We went deeply into these transits at the beginning here. The incredible stuff that we're looking at, the midpoints that fall into it, just we're still holding that charge from and we proved it through looking at the midpoints, through looking at history and all that stuff. We proved that we're still holding that charge from the Uranus Mars conjunction, and this is the next window we have where that charge can leak out. Am I saying it's going to leak out? I don't know. You know, it feels a bit more like it now than it felt like. But ultimately, it's the longer that this charge gets held on to, the more is going to build into it because of the insane charge coming from the Cazimi Jupiter during a full moon. Like, that is a releasal, and so it's a great opening for that charge to be released. But if it doesn't, then that Barbo's basket everyone's talking about, you know how I feel about it. But that's holding on to even more of a charge for later down the line. So it's that whole analogy I gave with the lightning. Okay, like where you've got, which Uranus rules, of course, when you've got some ambient energy built up in the clouds, lightning is the discharging of that energy, and we haven't seen the lightning strike yet. So more and more energy is building up in the clouds, just waiting here for something to discharge through. Okay, so yeah, the charge is still standing. The nodes moved into Leo and Aquarius. They will move into the Leo Aquarius axis on July 26th. This is the first lunation of that new axis, not an eclipse, but the axis opening. And so August 12th is going to be the eclipse. That's the total solar eclipse, 20 degrees Leo, 13 degrees further along in the same axis, a south node eclipse. The family that the family that releases rather than builds. Okay, and so the good thing about this stuff, guys, why I'm kind of stressing, like try to take care of it now. If you don't take care of it now, it's going to be taken care of in a pretty transformative and crazy way. People talk, I mean, come on, we all talk, even if you haven't heard of eclipses, you probably heard like people talk about eclipse season and be like, oh gosh, you know, that's going to be a lot of change, you know. And the eclipse season, it's rough around people who aren't ready for it. So we have the blessing of having a full moon here that's going to be on these eclipse axes, okay? But not only that, because the full moon's over in Aquarius, we still deal with a Pisces eclipse before we move over into Aquarius on that end, okay? But we have the Leo eclipse coming when we're having all the stuff in the Leo energy that comes in here. That's the Jupiter and the Sun at the center midpoints between Mars and Venus, exactly, not off by a fraction of a degree, exactly. And so this area of life that we're looking at here, if it's not addressed around this full moon, it's going to be addressed around that August 12th time frame, and it's not going to be pretty. Okay, so just make sure you're aware of that. I think most of us have already addressed a lot of this stuff. Okay, like the what is it, Mercury retrograde and that new moon Cancer kind of made these things come up, okay, because they're adjacent issues to all this Leo stuff. But if you haven't, I mean, if things are coming up you're thinking about right now, like, make sure you take care of it, okay? And hey, like, I'm telling this to myself too, because I've got some stuff I've been brushing off, and it's like, okay, now we'll get it done. But the outer structure does not dissolve on the way there. Neptune still sits on the Uranus-Pluto midpoint at the eclipse, and remember, that midpoint is only like within a yeah, 2/3 of a degree. I was like, it's like a fraction of a degree. That's within 2/3 of a degree. So we've got something going on here around Uranus-Pluto. And remember what we talked about with the Uranus-Pluto transit is like there was the conjunction. Okay, that was in 1965 around then. That was like when you had all the new age stuff come about. Okay, and then all the hippie movement and all that stuff, and it was kind of like a time like, okay, we're cool, we're good with it, but that was like a positive aspect for it with the conjunction. Okay, typically what you're typically looking at as a positive aspect. It's like energy is easier to work with. Okay, and then by the time we got to 2012 to 2015, that was the Uranus-Pluto square. And so all the things that we're talking about now, the Epstein files, all these things are getting unveiled as we got the nodes moving into, like, South Node specifically into Leo and all that. These crazy ass things that we're about to see go down during this time, especially dealing with world leaders and new understandings about the world leaders, power to the people, all that stuff. Back in 2012, 2015, that Uranus-Pluto square that I'm talking about here, back then, these things were crazy to talk about. And if you were awake back then, that was right when I woke up, like 2011, 2012. You remember people, you could barely have conversations with people about these things. Okay. And now everyone knows about these things. We can go, I just talk to strangers about this kind of stuff, and like everyone's just like on the level and they get it, and even though I have my issues with TikTok a lot of the time, this is something that I can be happy at TikTok for, because even like the most, low attention span people are learning this stuff. They're able to learn it through TikTok. So, but now those things, then as we're coming into, now we have the trine between those, they're commonplace. They were taboo then and radical to talk about, dealing with that Uranus-Pluto energy, the radical of Uranus, the taboo of Pluto. Okay. And now coming into that trine, everyone knows, and it's an Aquarius. So like there you go. But so that these are just like kind of, it's an important thing to do, because you can overlay that onto your life, especially if you've been living that long too. But the Cazimi does not repeat. By August 12th, Jupiter is 10 degrees off the sun. Tonight is the only night this particular sky exists. And when I say tonight, we're talking about Wednesday, the 29th of July here. Okay. That's going to be that night for it. But yeah, and then, but thank you for coming, guys. Well, and then if you want to book a reading, nightlight.co. Probably going to update the website soon. I keep saying it, but this is one of the things I said I've been putting off. No, I need to do it. But the website works and everything, and you can find what you need. And then my link tree is /nightslight. Okay. And then let me switch back. I think that's my last slide. Yeah. I'll just switch back here. But yeah, hopefully you guys are kind of getting a feeling, and I provided enough evidence to show you just what a transformational and potent full moon this is going to be. Besides the tarot cards being just so completely on brand that we went over earlier, those 3 cards all tying to either like the planets, the midpoints in the planets, like they just all tied together in this incredible way. So there's that going on, but there's all the hidden dynamics behind the scenes going on. There's the fact that these are landing on discharge points, which is theorized by Rudhyar, the guy who came up with a lot of these modern day midpoints. That stuff, these are these discharge points with the midpoints, besides the fact that we're dealing with the releasing of the full moon and the climax energy as well. So these faster moving planets, as we really went into, these are the things that when we see all these outer planets change signs, especially when you get a trigger like the Mars-Uranus trigger, and nothing has happened yet, and we looked at prior cycles at where there's a lag between it, it's definitely be ready for that thing to come up in your life. Be ready for that thing to come up on the world stage, to be violent, even if metaphorically speaking, disruptive, radical, you know. But it'll just and they it doesn't even mean they're going to hit on the same day. It could hit on your life 1 week, hit in the world stage 2 weeks later, you know. But very much a thing just to look at and be aware of. I try to equip you guys with everything I can to just help you navigate just these chaotic lives we find ourselves in a lot of the times, because I am a very slow, peaceful energy, and you know, I am loving the chaos a little bit. It speeds me up a lot, you know. That's the Aquarian in me, liking a little bit of the chaos coming in. But eventually we're gonna be like kind of like the meme of the stuff with Trump. It's like, no, Trump, stop, you're right, we were gonna be tired of winning, we're tired of winning, you know. That's how we're gonna feel about the chaotic energy like soon enough. It's just going to be so much move, 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 go, go, go. And it's going to be like, whoa, okay, I miss these times. And so we can be like, why isn't anything happening yet? But it's like, you're going to miss these times. In like 5 years, you're going to miss these times because of the things and the radical transformation that is occurring and going to begin to occur here in the world. But of course, don't let that scare you, because we need transformation, the scorpionic type of change, the fire of renewal to come through the society in order to bring us into this world that we've all been praying for years now. And now it's going to come because we've been praying for it. But it's just not going to look completely pretty the whole time, you know? That's not fun anyway. But anyway, I love you guys. Love you, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and take it easy. Have a great weekend. Have a good Friday.